And welcome to the City Council meeting, regular City Council meeting. We are going to get started. The time is now 6:30, so I am going to call the meeting to order. And we're going to go ahead and do a roll call, please. Excuse me. Councilmember Gama is going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I like the way Madam Clerk was just going to go ahead and do it. She wasn't going to hold me accountable.
I was like, thankfully, my button wasn't working.
Great. Let's go ahead to the roll call. Thank you.
Councilmember Gama.
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Here.
Councilmember Perez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Here.
And Mayor Perez.
Here.
Mayor Martinez-John. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Here. So we're going to go ahead and move to our inspiration, and that's going to be given tonight by Councilmember Gama. So over to you, Councilmember.
Thank you very much. I have a quick little PowerPoint to show you. Be just a sec. So I really enjoy doing inspiration. I think it's the greatest part of the job, so bear with me. So Hueneme Beach Cleanup has been in progress now we're working on our 9th year, and we have a lot of groups that participate, none greater than Amgen. Amgen has been a big participant over the years, I think 5 or 6, maybe even 7 years. They've donated money to buy us pickers. They show up wholeheartedly. This is a couple years ago. And then, not having enough buckets for Amgen is a good problem for our coastal environment. And generally speaking, we don't have enough buckets for Amgen, and let me show you why. This was this year. So with that, I would like to introduce Jim Fisher. He's the Senior Director of Corporate Engineering and Sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you. Should I speak here?
Yeah.
And this is working. So, hi everyone, I'm Jim Fisher with Global Engineering at Amgen. I lead the environmental sustainability team there. And I want to thank you for recognizing us and giving us this opportunity. And also want to speak more to the corporate environment at Amgen a little bit, and then kind of turn it over to the culture and allow Tanya to speak a bit. At Amgen, I think we're really fortunate to work for a company that pushes for sustainability. Several years ago, we're in the middle of our 3rd and most aggressive sustainability program at Amgen, and the board awarded us $200 million to deliver carbon neutrality, a 40% reduction in water, and a 75% reduction in waste. And so for me, it's really something to work for a corporation that is so dedicated to environmental sustainability. But what also makes Amgen really unique is the culture in which we work, and that really is driven by the staff, right? The Amgen culture is really a collaborative environment and an environment where all the staff know that they're encouraged to always do the right thing. And so that's what makes Amgen quite unique, and that's what makes Amgen a company that can, say things like we've been doing coastal cleanup for 20 years now. Our coastal cleanup activities span the globe with over 20 sites that participated in it. And there's just a laundry list of things that are happening because the staff are dedicated to this type of activity. And there's one staff member that is the most passionate staff member that I know at the company, and that's Tanya Nunez. She'll speak after this quick video.
And Tanya is from Hueneme.
All right, thanks.
I'm happy to get this chance to talk about our coastal cleanup efforts. We are part of this community, and we are part of Amgen, a very responsible corporate citizen. And the coastal cleanup is a very important part of this.
I'm really excited about Amgen's 20th year of participation in International Coastal Cleanup. Last year, we had 19 sites from around the globe participate with hundreds of staff members. That's pretty impressive.
Events like International Coastal Cleanup help Amgen staff develop bonds that will last a career. And it builds a sense of community within the company that extends beyond the local site into the global environment. It's important for Amgen to show up for the local communities because we are an integral part of the local communities.
No matter where you are around the globe, there are Amgen staff members ready to take action and support a healthy planet.
And it is our duty and our privilege to take care of the environment. Thank you.
Yeah, so I hope you all feel as I do that Amgen is truly inspirational when it comes to taking care of our coastal environment. And Hueneme resident Tanya Nunez.
Chicma, Sahochafoa, Tanya Nunez, Chickasaw, Sa'i. That's my native tongue, and it says, hello, my name's Tanya Nunez, and I'm Chickasaw. I come from the Chickasaw tribe. I'm honored to be here today with Jim, who came all the way from Colorado. I grew up on the California coast. I grew up here in Port Hueneme, graduated from Hueneme High School, have long, deep roots rooted here in this community. My mother ran for Harbor Day Queen back in the 50s, so that kind of shows you, but I have 5 generations here in the community. So I'm really inspired by our staff who take days out to dedicate. They don't have to get up on a Saturday to volunteer, but they do. They come out, and we had over 180 volunteers go out for coastal cleanup this year. That says something because they can stay in bed and sleep. It's Saturday. They don't have to go to work. But for them to show up and join me, and for me to be able to share my passion of where I grew up, fishing on the pier and walking Ormond Beach, and showing them, hey, this is where I grew up as a little girl, fishing with my father on this California coast. I think I get inspired by that. I guess I like to look at it as like a mother watching her children open her Christmas presents, watching her children open her Christmas presents and their expressions. I do a lot of other volunteer works. We take volunteers out to Anacapa Islands and seeing somebody from a place where there's no ocean and watching a dolphin or a whale breach out of the ocean, and their expression is like, wow, you live here. I take it for granted because I've lived here all my life. But to see somebody else enjoying it through their eyes, that's the excitement that I get out of it. I just wanted to give a little shout out to the Chumash people, the original caretakers of this land. They inspire me every day. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm wearing my ribbon skirt, which is a native tradition handed down by our grandmothers. And that's something special, and I wore that today just to be here to represent my culture and who I am. Just like this community, Amgen is a melting pot of diversity. We've got so much culture amongst our staff. And so for us all to come together to support our community is very inspiring. Somebody that was going to be here tonight that couldn't make it, Wendy Delgado, who led this community effort this year. Each year we have somebody else leading our Planet with the City of Port Hueneme, our coastal cleanup. And Wendy wanted to be here, but she had other prior engagements and couldn't be here today. But I would like to give a shout out to her because she did lead the Port Hueneme efforts. I was more focused on the global efforts with over 20 sites participating in coastal cleanup this year. We beat our records from last year. In the video it said 19. This year we had 20 sites from Singapore Island, Singapore, Ireland, the Netherlands, we had Puerto Rico. There was just so many of us all coming together and having the resources to support them. That was my job this year. And again, I want to thank all of you, City Council member. I want to give a special shout out to Stephen Gama for making it so easy for volunteers to go out on a Saturday and volunteer, because if it wasn't for him, we couldn't do what we do. So thank you, Stephen, for allowing us to partner with the City of Port Hueneme on not just coastal cleanup, but every Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a little certificate for you of inspiration. And I do want to add that Amgen is so big. How big is it? We have 3 or 4 different groups from Amgen that come out, and it's really inspiring. So this is just the research and engineering group, but there's a global marketing group and another group, I can't recall the name. So we appreciate the effort, and anyone willing to and wanting to come out every Saturday. And I'll present this to you, and thank you.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, welcome.
And thank you, Councilmember Gama. We're going to move on to public comments. So we're going to hear public comments not pertaining to the items on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments? They will be 3 minutes.
Yes, and I just wanted to note that we did receive written public comments. They were provided to the City Council prior to this meeting. In addition, they have been posted to the city's website and included in the agenda packet binder that's just outside this council chamber for the public's review. The first person for public comment will be Becky Bruning, and that will be followed by Paul Quigley.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council, staff, and audience. I'm here tonight representing Rocapi Outdoors. This Sunday will be our last fishing day of the year, and we are going to have a costume contest, so make sure your kids wear their costumes and come out and just have a great time. We'll be there from 8 to 11.
Thank you.
Paul Quigley. Sarah Wachowski, you'll be next.
Good evening. I'm Paul Quigley, Port Hueneme homeowner. I wanted to thank the City Council for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening and to express my concerns about the short-term rental ordinance, which I understand the first reading is going to be 2 weeks from today. I recently purchased a home just east of the base. What I want to do is move up here and retire. I live and work in Santa Monica, but I'll be retiring soon. So Port Hueneme really appealed to me as a really small seaside community, very friendly, very intimate. And I really feel welcome here. But when I attended the meeting back on June 25th, there was a lot of discussion about this survey. I want to talk about 3 things. I want to talk about the survey. I want to talk about what I think that should be a more sound approach on a regulatory strategy. And I want to talk about a little bit more about my own personal situation and why short-term rentals make a lot of sense in my situation. My concern with the survey mainly is the way the sample size was selected. It's a very small 200 respondents out of, which represents less than 1% really of the entire population. I think it's very anecdotal. It's useful information. I think my concern is that the city may be running with data which is very limited in terms of validity and doesn't really represent what I would call a meaningful cross-section of the city population and the entire housing inventory in the city. The survey fails to point out a single problem with short-term rentals. I don't know if you noticed that. And I was taken back by that. There are 58 properties involved with short-term rentals in the city. That's like out of 8,000 housing units. So it's like, what's the problem? But the next thing I really wanted to mention here is that there's a better way in terms of developing this ordinance. It's getting to what the problems are, right? If it's a noise problem, focus on the noise. Don't try to overregulate and dictate terms that relate to maximum number of occupants per house. Or
Sir, we're going to let you finish your sentence. So finish your sentence and your time is up. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So anyway, Yeah, what I'm seeing is a survey that is very biased. It's really an opinion survey. It's a start, but get more definitive information on where these problems are. And
thank
develop
you.
an ordinance around that.
Thank
around
you.
Those,
You're-
around that,
Your 3 minutes is up, sir.
around those problems. Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah, I
thank you.
didn't realize I had a 2-minute limit. So
3 minutes.
I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to the November 3rd reading. Thanks.
Did you,
And Mayor and
City Manager?
Council, I'll just note, I know it was mentioned, but we are scheduling that ordinance to be heard at the next council meeting, and so there will be an opportunity for further discussion at that time.
Yes. Thank you for your comment. Go ahead.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor McQueen-Lejeune, City Council, and City staff. My name is Sarah Wilczewski, and I am here as part of 805 Immigrant Rapid Response Network and 805 and DocuFund. On October 1st, ICE received a huge boost to their funding, and since then we have only seen them get more aggressive and more dangerous in their actions. While we have not seen another glass house yet, it is only a matter of time. Just last week, they rammed a volunteer responder's car and arrested him. That made national news and just happened next door in Oxnard. It is now October 20th, and we need you to take tangible action. We need you to support our vulnerable immigrant neighbors. Continue to investigate what other cities are doing to stand up for their immigrant communities. Host a forum where these issues can be openly discussed. Host an immigrant resource workshop like Moore Park. Santa Paula created an immigration committee. Oxnard and several other communities have offered their support to the Vasquez Perdomo v. Nome lawsuit and are looking into joining Newsom v. Trump. Please consider signing a common interest agreement in both of these lawsuits with the plaintiffs. Please consider allocating a portion of the Community Benefit Fund towards immigrant legal defense and education. There's so much that can be done to support our immigrant community, and these are just a start. And to the community, if you see any ICE activity or have been impacted by them, please call or text the 805 and DocuFund hotline at 805-870-8855. You can also text alerts or alert us to the hotline to receive alerts when we have a confirmed ICE sighting. You can also volunteer with us. We have an upcoming training in Newbury Park on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
Great, thank you. We'll now move on to agenda approval. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Do any members of council have any conflicts of interest to disclose regarding any of the agenda items? Okay. We're going to move on to presentations. We first have Down Syndrome Awareness Month proclamation, and that's going to be presented by Councilmember Perez. And we're going to ask at this time that Police Chief Federico and representative of Hueneme Elementary School District come on down while we read the proclamation. Over to you.
All right. I am reading the Down Syndrome Awareness Month proclamation for October 2025. Whereas October is designated as Down Syndrome Awareness Month, and whereas Down syndrome is the most survivable genetic difference affecting 1 in every 733 live births in the United States, and whereas trisomy 21, the most common type of Down syndrome, is caused by an extra third copy of the 21st chromosome, and whereas the genes on the extra chromosome interact with other genes, causing varying degrees of learning difficulties as well as physical disabilities. The learning difficulties or degree of intellectual disability can be mild to severe, but most commonly falls somewhere in the moderate area. And whereas individuals with Down syndrome have physical characteristics similar to a family or ethnic resemblance, individuals with Down syndrome are also just that, individuals. The effects of the extra chromosome
do not affect each person the exact same way. There are common physical characteristics of Down syndrome among individuals. However, the degree of physical characteristics also varies among individuals. And whereas children with Down syndrome are educated in many different ways, however, early intervention and early education are key to the individual's development. Some individuals participate in special needs education and also all-inclusive education settings, including extracurricular programs for both of those areas. And whereas many adults with Down syndrome live independently, live in living programs, or with their families, many individuals have jobs either working independently or with a job coach. Some individuals attend day programs that focus on special activities. And whereas people with Down syndrome often find a lot of satisfaction in the activities that they participate in and experience, most individuals with Down syndrome grow, learn, and function well within all communities. One area of strength for individuals with Down syndrome is their social skills, which often exceed their academic achievements and help them to achieve a happy and productive life. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the City Council of Port Hueneme hereby recognizes October 2025 as Down Syndrome Awareness Month in the City of Port Hueneme and encourages the community to support the quality of life for individuals with Down syndrome by promoting inclusion, acceptance, community connections, and awareness of individuals with Down syndrome. Proclaim this 20th day of October 2025.
And thank you. And as in the past, your police department will be wearing our blue and yellow Support Down Syndrome Awareness pins. Your Commissioner Cameo here is also wearing her blue pin here on her blue and yellow ribbon with the badge on it as well. Here we have for you tonight our friends across the street from our Hueneme School District. Superintendent Christine Walker's hiding back there, and super awesome leader amongst us. And who we invited here tonight was staff from the Special Needs Education Department, which is Stephanie and Aaron, and Stephanie is their director. And most parents in the special needs world will remind everybody in this great country of ours, we don't need to put our kids with special needs in private schools. Some of the best education that comes to our kids with special needs is from our public schools. You just need a combination of two things. You need teachers and staff that care, and you need to make sure that there's funding for it in the schools. And we're fortunate to have that. So we have great staff here in this school district, and we're happy to have them here. Cameo, System of Teachers.
Okay. Hello. I wanted to say something too. I have to keep it short though. My dad told me. So I want to say about these two teachers here, because they have been pretty good, and I want to say I wanted to thank them for their they have been teaching the special needs, the students with Down syndrome, just like me, because I also have Down syndrome too, and I have special needs too. And I want to say I want to thank them for their support, and I want to thank them for a good job for teaching them, to teach them love and teach them how to be pretty smart, and they need to be more independent for their independence, and they have to be an adult just like me, because I am 26 years old, and they have to be very predictable for their lives. Thank you.
Well said. Well
Well, thank you for having us tonight. My name's Stephanie Barnes, and I am the director of our People Support Services at Hueneme Elementary School District. This is my colleague, Erin Murphy. She's program specialist, but the honor is all ours to serve our students and our families. So thank you again for having us tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
And present the proclamation and get a photo.
One, two, three.
Good job, Cameo.
Good job, Cameo.
And thank you all for coming out. We're going to move to our next proclamation. It's in recognition of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so I'd like to welcome our Deputy City Manager, Charles Peretz, and our IT Manager, Aaron Wiedemeyer. While they come up, Councilmember Hernandez is going to read the proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. October 2025 is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, whereas October is known as National Cybersecurity Awareness Month and is intended to raise awareness of protecting our data and technologies from malicious hackers and cyber threats. And whereas the theme for Cybersecurity Awareness Month 2025 is Stay Safe Online, and whereas we recognize the importance of Port Hueneme citizens realizing the positive impacts of our digital future. And whereas we encourage all Port Hueneme residents and city staff to learn more about cybersecurity in both their work and home environments. And whereas the city works actively to instruct and test staff and city council members, it should say, email users on social engineering, phishing attempts, and whereas while cybersecurity awareness is important to address year-round, Cybersecurity Awareness Month provides a dedicated time to remember each of us has a part to play in keeping ourselves and others safe. And whereas according to the National Cybersecurity Alliance 2023 OBehave report, 84% of people considered online safety a priority, but only 38% of people used unique passwords for all their accounts. And whereas we use this month to honor all of the cybersecurity professionals who are working tireless to defend our digital world, now therefore be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme does hereby recognize October 2025 as Cybersecurity Awareness Month and encourages the community to spread awareness for this important cause. Proclaimed this 20th day of October 2025. Charles, Aaron, thank you for your good work.
All right. Well, thank you for the proclamation, and thank you for the opportunity to share that information. We all hear stories in the news about cyber attacks and hacking stories, so we know that we should be mindful of cybersecurity dangers, but for too many of us, I think it falls lower on the to-do list. So it's important that we take moments like this to pause and reflect and think about the things that we can do to make sure that we are more secure. Just last week, the Ray Pewter Library had an event to share information to members of the public about cybersecurity concerns and things they can do to be safer. And we wanted to take this opportunity to have the proclamation and share some information in that regard as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Wiedemeyer, our IT manager, who can share a few words about the things that the city does to stay safe and some tips and tricks for members of the public as well.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank the City Council for taking the time to recognize the continuing importance of cybersecurity with this proclamation, and also with your continued support in approving the budgets when we make those requests for those items. It's extremely important to remember that cyber criminals do not take a day off. They are always busy trying to hack into our systems, and it's equally important for city staff and for the public to be cognizant of those activities. The city does have extensive protections in place. We have our internet firewalls. We have antivirus software on all of our computers. We do regular penetration testing to find potential issues that we need to address. And again, the continual staff training to recognize those attempts at phishing as a gateway to get into our network. City residents may not be able to afford full firewalls, but it's extremely important to keep their antivirus software on all of their devices and to keep that software up to date. There are many vendors on the internet who provide free antivirus software. If you do a Google search or whatever your favorite browser is, you can find many of those services for free. And like Mr. Peretz mentioned, the local agencies like the Ventura County Library continue to have that education for the public. Generally, I believe it was free stuff, so it's important to be aware of those emergent cyber threats, and those are excellent places for the public to go to. Residents should really remain vigilant about the phishing email attempts. One simple example is if you're not expecting something from your bank or from a vendor, don't click on any of the links. If you're concerned about what happened there, use your independent saved link that you use on a regular basis to go to the bank or the website. Or if you have an app on your phone, use the app on your phone. Don't click on any of those links. They may look like they are legitimate, but they're probably not. And then in closing, the old adage remains true even in our digital world. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
I have a question.
Thank you. Yes.
Can you, so when I look at antivirus software and you know, all that, sometimes I feel like, well, this could be a phishing. What about this one? What about that one? So could you provide us a list of what you, the expert, would recommend as a top 3 for us to consider? Is that possible?
I'm not prepared with that, to tell you the honest truth. Can I remember the name of the one I use personally at home?
Norton, McAfee.
I can't.
Yeah, maybe that's something you can bring back to us.
Okay. Yeah, I could. Like I say, if you do the search on the internet, especially for the free services, they come up. They're the top lists, and if you look at any related reviews, you'll see who is doing a good job. But pretty much all of them do a good job. They do want you to pay for service. They will send you an ad every week or month saying, hey, while you have the basic security on, we could do all this extra stuff for you for a fee. But that basic security is really the important first level of protection so that you keep your devices secure.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Any questions? Thank you for your report. Thank you so much, or your presentation.
We're going to present the proclamation?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yes,
I
go
want to do something a little different, have the mayor pro tem present this, and then the rest of the council will stand back here.
Sure.
Okay?
Come on, Mayor Pro Tem.
Sure.
You can come.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Charles.
And for our final presentation, we have with us Beacon Executive Director Mark, and forgive me if I don't pronounce your name correctly, I have a couple of them. Baylor will be giving a presentation via Zoom. I understand we will be joined by Dr. Kiki Pesh. And let's see, and then we have Mr. Brian Brennan here in person. Okay, wonderful. So thank you all for joining. So we'll turn it over to you, Mr. Baylor.
Yes, thank you. I hope you all can hear me well.
Yes. Yes, we
I'll
can.
go ahead. Well, thank you for inviting Beacon to provide a little background to the City Council today. I want to say Beacon's excited to attend City Council again, a meeting of the City of Port Hueneme City Council. And I'm going to say this as I start, I'm always blown away by the level of citizen, government representative. It blows my mind, the partnership that I see in your community. So as somebody who had to follow amazing presentations, I just can't even imagine. And I go to a lot of civic functions. You're blessed with the people that live in Port Hueneme and support all your actions. And I think they're blessed to have you as well. So with that, if I can, I just wanted to, before I turn on my Zoom, say that yes, I'm supported today by Dr. Kiki Patch from Cal State University Channel Islands, just up the street, and by Brian Brennan, who lives just up the street the other way in Ventura, who's a special projects representative of Beacon. And I want to thank you for letting me come, not in person tonight, which I've done in the past, but by Zoom to accommodate my situation, my condition tonight. So thank you very much. I do want to just say a few words about Beacon before I get into the several points I want to make in response to the invitation. But let me see if I can share my screen and get it up and start it. And now you should all be able to see my screen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much for telling me that. So as I said, I wanted to start with just a couple background points. I know you're all very educated and you spend a lot of time on the topics, but I just want to remind us all of the landscape of Beacon and the structure of Beacon. So Beacon covers what we call the Santa Barbara Littoral Cell, from the source of our sediment and sands to the end state of the loss of our sediment and sands in this natural catchment area, drained by our rivers, streams, and creeks that are served by our regional coastal draining watersheds. Very important landscape. And Beacon is comprised of the 6 coastal cities in the South Coast, as we know it sometimes, and the 2 counties. And our beat, as it were, are our sandy beaches and our coastal resources. And in a large measure, Santa Maria's sand and Cuyama's sand is Santa Barbara and Ventura's beaches. That's a very long scale presentation, but that's how the system dynamics works. And you know that, and we'll talk about it a little bit tonight. It's with also a bit of humility that I say that Beacon is supported by the 8 member jurisdictions with dues, and that you, the City Council, and your staff and your representatives have supported Beacon as part of the partnership and the chorus, as it were, of trying to advance our policy of preserving our coastal resources while providing for a very robust human use. So with that, I just want to say a couple things that why Beacon, why would you get together with your colleagues in other jurisdictions? One, because of scale, because the littoral cell really is a very large, almost 150-mile geography of our coast. And because we, again, as we do our projects, preserving our sandy beaches through a variety of means, but beach nourishment is one, we know in the absence of this management activity and enhanced activity, we really do have the threat of losing a great deal of our sandy beaches, and as well as our coastal infrastructure. So we support beach nourishment projects in a variety of locations in the region. Environmentally, ecologically sound beach nourishment projects. We don't want to destroy the beach to save it. We want to preserve it for multiple values of its habitat, its cultural, its economic, for all the values that it represents. It's very inspiring to hear about the beach cleanup efforts, both of your city but also again of your partnership, and to hear the stories of people who volunteer based on, in some measure, what they did with their parents when they were children, how they learned about the place they say they love and that they want to save and preserve for their children. It's amazing, just amazing stories. But one of the reasons we want to save our beach is for our own use and for future generations' use. Beacon is particularly active in collaborating to develop the continued nourishment of Hueneme Beach. And we do this through a variety of means. And I'm not going to report them all, except to say that in the absence of this coordination and collaboration, we will not mobilize sufficient resources to keep this enterprise fully funded and operational. And even with that, it's a very difficult enterprise. And we'll just talk about the scale and the structure of why we do the bypassing to provide beach nourishment currently on Hueneme Beach, and why it's a continuing obligation. And that's why we have a larger partnership. And we're very committed to this partnership and support. So long story short, the development of the Port of Hueneme, both the civilian Port of Hueneme and the military naval base, has had immediate and long-standing impacts on the downshore current and the littoral drift, supplying sand to our beaches. And this was noted early in the operation of the two operations, and a plan to address this started in the 50s. And you know this story, but it bears repeating. That again, in the absence of action, we would have already lost these beach resources. And you've seen that in previous times when we didn't put enough sand on the beach. 2013 would be the case study of that. Let me go back, please. And I know I only have a short time. What I want to describe is, what is the solution for the maintenance of Hueneme Beach? It's continued regional sediment management activities and sand bypass. Because that is the solution for the problem we created with the installation of the bases. And it interrupts the sand, and the sand is then collected as a function of the engineering of Channel Islands Harbor, and then mechanically dredged and pumped to the city beach on a federal obligation, both Federal Corps of Engineers and the US Navy. And it takes a village to maintain these systems that are very complex, very large scale, and require many people to partnership over many generations of leaders and citizens. Because remember, now we've said this has been planned for since the 50s, but this bypassing operation's been in operation since 1963, I believe, 1964, to some great success. And when it fails or it stumbles, we see the results of that. I just wanted to remind us, because not all of us go out and see. I was recently out to see some of the dredging, and some people have showed me some pictures even of the current dredging. The scale of operations. This is a very large scale, very expensive operation. And I dare say that we need an integrated partnership strategy of the federal, state, regional, and local efforts to keep it going in the way that we want to have a sustained beach in Hueneme. And just to conclude with this very overview story of why we're doing what we're doing, and we can get into suggestions for improvements and variations, but why we're doing this, why we need to continue to do it, why it requires our support, even as we advance the state of the art to do it. In 2013, we did not do it. We fell short on the obligation for placing sand. Within weeks, if not days, there was no beach in the city, and the infrastructure that you consider essential to your coastal resource district was absolutely threatened. And so it's not that Beacon, for lack of effort, or the city for lack of effort, or the county of Ventura, or for that matter, our federal representatives, that we need to maintain this, and that in large measure we've done it, but we haven't done it because every time we have to reauthorize it, it's another battle over funding and permitting. But with that, I'm going to stop because I said we only had 10 minutes. Dr. Patch and I, she represents the Science Advisory Committee. She's a consultant to Beacon. She is your local expert on sand budgets, on the geomorphology of sand movement, on sand transport, and fate. So we have the expert here. And Kiki, one thing I will say, Dr. Patch, sorry, is that she has participated in it and helped us lead our Sand Summit series that we do annually to exchange information that has been absolutely essential. It's a long wave activity. It's not a tomorrow thing. But I think Dr. Patch has shown her commitment to participate in whatever the feasible options are for future actions that can address the sustainability of Hueneme Beach. And then we have in the audience Brian Brennan, who's been involved with Beacon for a very, very long time and is an expert in his own right on sediment dynamics and coastal policy around sediment, and has led some of the charge in Ventura around doing a long-standing coastal restoration project. So with that, I'll stop. Sorry to talk too long. Answer any questions you might have. There's my last slide, sorry. Let's see, unshare my screen. Sorry, you can't look at my screen. Jeez. Oh, there it is.
Okay, if there's another presentation, you can go ahead and move forward. Dr. Patch, did you have anything?
Oh, no, I am here just supporting Mark if anybody had any questions.
Okay.
It wasn't.
Are there any questions? Any questions?
Yeah, I have questions.
Go ahead.
So as Port Hueneme is, as you can see, this has been going on since that port was dredged. Is there anything else in the United States or else in the world that has a similar issue that like a big engineering scope of work has been done to change the flow of sand movement? Just to keep dredging as the only first option. Is there any re-engineering that could be done to change the flow of the sand?
Kiki, I'm going to let you answer that question, but I appreciate the question. I'm going to repeat just a point, and that is, this is the re-engineering activity that can be done to address the problem that was created when we installed the facilities. Now, Beacon is never afraid to and encourages the community of practice to consider how it can be done or what else can be done. But Beacon has in its policies and plans to date, in the absence of an effective other alternative, because this is the engineering choice, to support this. But as I say, we are a research and a policy organization, and we can, as you might have noted in the Ethernet around the Magoo question, the submarine canyon question, there's a lot of questions around bypass, not bypass, sediment retention structure. So we're always in the market for trying to answer the question you just posed. And I don't remember, I can't see who asked it, but respectfully, it's not that we're not structured to do that. But this is the re-engineering of the coast to get the sand in the right place. Okay, go ahead, Kiki, not to interrupt you, sorry.
It is. No, I have a quick answer. Basically is we basically made our harbors before we really understood how sand moves down the coast. So what happened was really the Santa Barbara harbor kind of started it all, and we created that harbor, and then a few years later we had devastating erosion down in Carpinteria area, and that really led to a lot of the science that made us really understand how waves push sand along the coast, where the sand is supplied from, and how it's moving along the coast. So that was really, for the whole United States, the first kind of wake-up call that we needed to sort of engineer ourselves out of our engineered problems. And so with Port Hueneme, it just unfortunately is at the very end of a very large littoral cell. And so for a lot of the harbors up and down the coast, if they're at the top of a littoral cell and don't have a lot of sediment coming down, they don't have a big dredging problem. Like Crescent City Harbor, Dana Point Harbor, they're at the very start of a cell, so they don't really have a problem. The Port Hueneme Harbor, we now understand, is at the very end and has a huge dredging requirement. So that was why the engineers brainstormed what they can do. You know, we look at things like permeable groins, but that doesn't work at a harbor mouth because it'll fill in the navigation channel. So with this one in particular, and the need to keep that navigation channel to a regulated depth, we have to catch that sand before it goes into the harbor mouth and bypass it to the other side. So it really is, at this point, the best available science that we have is this sort of dredging process. And Channel Islands Harbor was dredged with the intent of catching as much of that sand as we can, with the way that the pier and the groins were developed and the jetties were developed to actually be an excellent sand trap. So that combination of Channel Islands Harbor and Port Hueneme is actually a very effective engineering solution to sort of the problem we created with this harbor at the very end of the cell.
Okay, so I have one more question. So, the sand traps that we have, they seem pretty effective at trapping the sand. Would it be viable to have like a tunnel underground that actually, a barge can actually hook up that is, pre-positioned, and you could just start pumping sand without having to lay any groundwork down?
I believe they tried that at one point. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but at some places they do have sort of permanent pipes that are put in that will sort of go underneath the harbor, as you're saying, sort of like down at the bottom and come out the other side, where they will then connect into and sort of pump. But I don't think they do that there anymore. Do you know, Mark?
No, they don't. And I think the best analog would be Oceanside Harbor, because they did that. And to get at your question about, are there any re-engineering options? So I want to break it down a little bit, because I want to be responsive. The concern I've heard, and the concern we've had in funding it, is that it's incredibly expensive, like really expensive, and the costs are mounting. And then everyone talks about the conditions under which we do the dredging and all these micro issues. They're macro issues, but micro issues. And so what I want to suggest is that we could analyze, and you can think this through as a logic problem. What are the dimensions of the concern around the current engineered solution? Well, you just mentioned one thing, is the pieces of equipment and how they're hooked together in a treatment train to get us the sand at the right location. We have a lot of buried elements of piping that are kept installed. Santa Barbara is a good example, and I think we just did it here a little bit. The tunnel idea, I do not think has been viable in locations where it's been tried. And then we get to the barge and the barging. And barging is both a physical and mechanical process, but it's an economic, political, and managerial process. And I know that we could do better in trying to figure out what's the best program, if we're going to have dredging, to address some of the concerns about dredging. Santa Barbara has an electric dredge. Hueneme and Channel Islands Harbor has a diesel dredge. The conditions under which you can dredge are very variable by weather and other conditions. And the way in which we could imagine that, and I'm going to say this about Hueneme. I cannot believe how sophisticated you all are. You have a skunk works in your own port where we could do all these things. Imagine an electric future, which you're imagining for the port based on the last storm anyways. But imagine how we could change maybe some of the technology, some of the economics, some of the mobilization, and some of the cost. And this is why I think your point is important to respond to. So where we do bury pipe, the mobilization of putting a pipe down every 24 months is eliminated. We can be more cost effective, or at least we can look at more cost effective ways to do our work. I believe that's true. We are on a regional level. We talk to our colleagues and they say, why don't you buy a dredge? You're always saying the dredge is this, the dredge is that. Everything comes with cost. There's no free good. And it's like owning or leasing a car or anything else. Do you really want to own that responsibility? Because if you own it, then you might have to fund more of it, not less of it. So I'm going to point out these reasons, not to discuss this and not to analyze this, but to understand the context in which this conversation can and should take place. Thank you for the patience in listening to us.
Great, thank you. And just for information, that was our Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
And I think Councilmember Hernandez had a comment or question.
Hello, Mark. Hi, Dr. Patch. It's Laura Hernandez, your alternate on Beacon. I just had a question that I haven't been able to get a straight answer on, or maybe I just missed the information somewhere along the many discussions we've had over this issue of dredging and replenishing our beaches. With the dismantling of Matilaha Dam, if and when that happens, what are the possibilities of the sediment that comes down that riverbed will help address our situation here at Hueneme? What are the possibilities that that will be one of the solutions?
Well, so Kiki, Dr. Patch described that you're at the end of the pipe, so to speak, and you have two important barriers. The sand from Matilaha Dam would have to be bypassed twice to get to Hueneme. And we'll do that. We will bypass it twice and we will get to Hueneme, and you will have your Ventura River watershed sand. That's a scale at which we can predict how long that would take to get into those catchment areas and be bypassed. But if you think of it as a system, and this again is answering to you, Laura, and to the Mayor Pro Tem, if you think of it in the system in which we in the past we presented it, then the pieces of the system should be analyzed in the context of the regional so that we can have the regional, federal, local funding solution approach, and then work on these questions of cost effectiveness, efficiency, and what I like to think of as biomimicry, a fancy term to the best way to get sand through our cell now is to mimic the natural littoral drift. And then where we must bypass or collect and through a tunnel or the barging or whatever, then we do that. And that, if that system is the bigger one we're all looking at, and to Dr. Patch's point, we have three bypasses. We have Santa Barbara into the Summerlin, Carpinteria. We have Ventura Harbor into the Pierpont, into the Santa Clara. And then we have the Channel Islands Harbor. And I just told you how much sand, well, I said that the sand comes from the coastal draining watersheds, and it does, 97% in our littoral cell, but we're not smart people. So we've looked twice in 25 years at offshore sand sources. Is there another way to be more cost effective in getting sand to the beach? You could think of it as kind of a backpassing in a way. It's already down out of the beachscape. It's beyond the wave effect. And then you go in and you say, could you reasonably, cost effectively? I mean, the logic is that it's right offshore the beach you need to nourish, as opposed to 1.5 miles to the north on the other side of a man-made harbor. We've looked at that. The only thing I can say is that balancing impacts, it may or may not be environmentally more sound or less sound. We have very, very important marine resources from the near shore all the way out. And can we do it cost effectively? So we have old data, and we're happy to, entertain a conversation about the data. It doesn't, this is the problem with the kit of parts. You could, for example, logically, you could say, well, we'll put sand up from, our deeper channel and we'll pay for it, or make the Navy pay for it or whatever, we'll pay for it. Then you have the sand trap problem of the sand trap is collecting sand, which means at some point it's full. and it doesn't work in the way it's supposed to. And where it goes is what Dr. Patch says. It goes into the harbor navigational channel, and in many cases might migrate up into the boat basin and be an enormous headache. And I'm not pointing that out to say don't do it. I'm pointing that out to say just be cognizant of the life cycle cost and the cost benefit equation and the cost effectiveness calculation, and all these things go into the longer term management. And Beacon's excited to have this conversation with the city council. Your two council representatives, Laura and Stephen Gama and Councilmember Hernandez, bird dog us, ask us, demand of us all the time. What can we do? What are we doing? How can we do it better? And how can we make it work? That's a pretty fair summary of what your representatives are asking and requesting of Beacon. You have a very active representation on the Beacon board. And so I'm very pleased to come today and take a little bit of your time. Sorry we took so much of your time, but it is a very important topic for the city, and we see that at Beacon. And you have really good resources in the region, not just Dr. Patch, but she's just the tip of the iceberg, really, really good scientist, good science, good community member. So you're again, very blessed with the resources you've created. And I hope we can continue to have these conversations periodically. We'll be back and tell you what we do in the region at some point, spending everybody's money. But these questions are common to the region. And we really do seek to answer as deep a question as you'd like to ask us, and to frame our action to satisfy those questions.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Patch.
Can I just add one quick thing about the Matilaha Dam? I did work, I think in 2004, where, we're looking at restoring the natural sand to this whole cell, right? And one of the recommendations is to remove that dam because it's blocking about 40% of this natural sand supply coming down the Ventura River. However, it's important to realize that the Santa Clara River delivers about 10 to 12 times the amount of sand that the Ventura River delivers. So while it is great to restore the natural sand supply, and that should be our first effort because you don't have to buy it, it's free, right? It really is important to understand that the Santa Clara River is like the bread and butter of your sand supply. It is like 12 times as much sand coming out of that river as Ventura River.
Good to know. Thank you.
Dr. Patch, Stephen Gama. Could you explain the similarities and differences between the Hueneme Canyon and the Point Mugu Canyon, and the fact that it's a very dynamic, they're very dynamic canyons. They're not static, they're changing, they're receding. And there are similarities and there's some pretty big differences between Mugu and Hueneme Canyon.
Yeah, the biggest difference is Mugu Canyon is a lot closer to the nearshore zone. So when waves kind of travel back and forth in our nearshore surf zone, they're going to start to interact with the Mugu Canyon in depths that are a lot shallower than the Hueneme Canyon. So Port Hueneme was actually built where it is built because you have that canyon coming pretty close into shore. And it was a great place to put a canyon because you can have, it's really deep just offshore. However, it is a little bit farther offshore, so it's not a complete catch to all of the sand that would be naturally traveling along that coastline. So before we put the port in there, while you did have some sand that was being funneled offshore into that canyon, it was the majority of that sediment was still making it past the canyon mouth. And then Mugu Canyon has a couple of branches that are coming off and encroaching shoreward, right? So it's trapping more of the sand. So it's a bigger player in sort of ending our littoral cell and being a permanent sink of that sand. Does that help?
Yes, and then it's my understanding that the Mugu Canyon is crumbling back towards shore, and
it is.
And
so
so
it's even more of the sand today than it was, say, a decade ago, because it is encroaching towards the shore. So it's capturing even more of that sand than it used to, which is one of the reasons why we think that there's more erosion than we've historically had south of Mugu Canyon, because it is starting to capture more of that sediment.
So if that erosion accelerated, one of the things that gets thrown around in Beacon meetings is like, well, we should put a pleasure craft harbor down by Point Magoo Canyon and trap the sand similar to what we're doing in Channel Islands. Would that solve the problem, or would that have unintended consequences?
You know, I think both. So we, at the Sand Summit, we had a number of scientists last, was it March or April, Mark, you know, talking about what are some of the engineering solutions. Are we able to capture that sediment before it goes down into the Magoo Submarine Canyon? It's like the $25,000 question we all want to know, because there's a lot of great sand there. So there are some potential things to explore in terms of catching that sand after we've moved it from Channel Islands Harbor sand trap to the other side of Port Hueneme. How do we keep that sand there for a little bit longer? And I think the Navy's really interested in doing that. I think they're trying to figure out how to capture it before it kind of gets funneled into the deep ocean offshore down Magoo Canyon. So that is a great option that we can explore as a source of sand, if we can figure out a way to keep it on the beach there or trap it before it goes down in there.
Yeah, and I just want to add, as when I was 9 years old, I spent a week out at Point Magoo, camping there on base, and the difference, that was in 1976 perhaps, the difference between then and now is like stark. It's so dramatic, and there's so much sand that is gone, and it'll never come back.
Even if you look at where Broad Beach is, it got the name Broad Beach because it was a huge expanse of sand. And you see that huge dune just down coast, like that's an indicator that it used to be an area where we had a lot of sand. But the USGS did some bathymetric mapping, and they see that over the years, the heads of those canyons have crept closer and closer to the shore. They capture that sand, and that's when you see, when you disrupt a natural sand supply, you'll see the consequences down coast.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Perez? Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate it. And as you mentioned, Mr. Baylor, our primary and our alternate will be asking you questions in the very near future as we go forward. Brian, do you have anything? No. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Nice to see you all.
Good night.
Thanks, Kiki.
Okay, we're going to move on to our consent calendar. We're going to consider the items here, which will be enacted in one motion, unless a council member would like to pull an item. Does any council members like to pull any item?
Well, I was going to pull item number 4, but I think I'll just save my comments until the end of the meeting during council comments. So just for the sake of time.
Okay, great.
Item number 8.
Item number 8. Anyone else? Okay, so you do not want to pull item number 4?
No, I'll hold off on that.
So is there a motion for items number 1 through 7?
Move to approve items 1 through 7.
Second.
Great, thank you. Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
And I just want to, if I can do that, I just want to recognize we have Dr. McCoy here tonight. We've already let's see, we've
Sorry,
just
Dr.
approved your item. So did you have anything that you wanted to say to us this evening?
I just want to say thank you. I'm actually Richard Urias, Assistant Business Services.
Oh, right, okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay, but I just want to say thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And so let's take item number 8.
What are they thanking us for?
Del Sol, item number 7.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, so this caught my attention, and I started to look at the port's vessel summary as a means to try to calculate the number of trucks that are generated by the port. And we should be able to get an actual number by analyzing the vessel summary. For example, when a Chiquita Progress comes in, I would think that the port would be able to say, oh yeah, the Chiquita Progress has the capability with the deepening of the port to bring in 600 containers, or is it 800 containers? If I chat GPT that vessel, it says 1,276 containers, which seems an awful lot. So I just think that if we could get actual numbers, trucks related to vessels, that it would give our engineering and public works department better data to estimate wear and tear and roads and costs and all that. So, this adjustment, or this, I guess there was a mistake indicating that 1,600 trucks are coming out of the gate of the Port of Hueneme, and it's corrected in the staff report, but then it triggered me to say, like, well, wait a minute, shouldn't we be able to get an actual number by vessel of truck trips? So I just wanted to bring that up and see if we could do that.
Okay. Did you have?
Yeah, and a couple of things. One is I can note that the report was intended to be total truck trips on our streets because when we maintain our streets, we're preparing to maintain them based on impacts, not necessarily, we can't just count impacts from one location or another. So the report was intended to be all truck trips, and there was just one section of the report where that wasn't clear, so we had identified that as correcting that. The other thing is, in the meantime, while we've been working on that, I believe, and I'll make sure that I did pass these on, I believe the port actually did provide us some counts of their information to share with the council. So I think we passed those on, but I'll double check and make sure we pass those reports on to the council.
And that's what triggered my thinking about this, is like, well, wait a minute. You have a vessel summary, and the vessels have names, and we should be able to get a number for each vessel that comes through the port over the several, 12 months of the year. So it just seems to me that that number should be readily available.
Okay, so let's go back to the item. This is the pavement management and truck route life cycle cost analysis, where we had a correction to the prior report.
Mm-hmm.
So if we need to have a discussion about something else, that should probably be another item.
Yeah, I think I'd recommend approving this, and then we'll share the data that I think is responsive to the question.
Right.
Move to approve item 8.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. We are now going to move to our public hearing. So this is the Cannabis Development Management Compliance Review and Finding of Exemption from CEQA. Madam Clerk, do we have proof of publication as required by law and a complete file to report and exhibit, of reports and exhibits?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Great. Will staff please present the report?
Yes, thank you. And Charles Peretz, our Deputy City Manager, will be giving the presentation. I just wanted to note before we start that just as some background, that we have 17 current cannabis development agreements, and that per those development agreements, we review each of the agreements annually. I think everybody's aware, but with the opening of Ventura and Oxnard cannabis businesses, there has been an impact on some of our local businesses, and I think what we're going to see tonight is in particular on primarily on the businesses that had not yet opened, that had been issued development agreements in Port Hueneme but hadn't opened yet, that we are seeing that some of those businesses have not moved forward in that period. And so this review is intended to focus on really 5 businesses, primarily those ones that either hadn't opened or there's a couple that had opened and have either closed or indicated that they may be closing. So we wanted to review those 5 at this time. And with that, I'll hand it over to Charles to lead that review.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council, members of staff, members of the public present. As the City Manager indicated, this item is a public hearing intended to allow the Council to review and make findings regarding 5 specific development agreements that are issued in connection with the operation of cannabis businesses. The City of Port Hueneme, as we know, uses development agreements to establish the terms and conditions for development and operation of cannabis businesses. The agreements require businesses to provide various public benefits, including long-term employment opportunities, additional tax revenues, revenues from contractual payments that are percentages of the revenues produced by those businesses, and support for community benefits. The agreements state that the anticipated receipt of those contractual payments are the primary inducement for the city to enter into agreements. Additionally, compliance with payment obligations, financial audits, city ordinances, permits, and other applicable regulations are considered material terms of these agreements. Development agreements include deadlines, usually within a year of approval, by which the development must be completed and put into operation. Resolution 4401, also known as the Implementing Resolution, provides for annual agreements by the City Council. The resolution requires Council to review key terms and ensure compliance with the agreed-upon public benefits. The agreements contain several conditions under which the Council may determine that a developer is in default of the agreement. Some of these include making a finding upon substantial evidence that the developer has not complied with a material requirement of the agreement, a violation of the conditional use permit associated with the activity, or the termination or diminution of contractual payments. So as the city manager indicated, tonight we're going to be reviewing 5 development agreements. Those 5 are the agreements with the city and Hueneme Patient Consumer Co-op, also known as HPC, Port Hueneme Organic Team, Inc., Red Mule Group, LLC, PH Investment Group, LLC, also known as Element 7, and the Fire Garden, LLC. The development agreement between the city and HPC provides for the operation of a retail dispensary and ancillary delivery services. The agreement was approved November 2017, and the business began operating in April of 2018. On July 25th of this year, the business ceased operating, and the developer subsequently advised the city that the closure was permanent. With the business no longer operating, it is unable to comply with material requirements and public benefits called for in the agreement, such as providing those employment opportunities, providing additional revenue from sales taxes and contractual payments, and providing community benefits. The agreement provides language that the council may determine that a default has occurred when the developer has not complied in good faith with a material term of the agreement, or when the contractual payments have been terminated or diminished. Based on those facts, staff is recommending that, upon the basis of substantial evidence, the City Council adopt a resolution that finds the developer out of compliance and in default with the development agreement. The resolution would direct staff to provide notice of the city's intent to revoke the agreement and initiate the process to revoke and repeal the conditional use permit.
Mr. Peretz, do we need a motion on this item singly, or are we going to go through all 5?
I prefer to go through all 5, and we'll consider the recommendation at the conclusion. The second development agreement to be reviewed is the agreement between the city and Port Hueneme Organic Team Incorporated. That agreement provides for the development of a micro-business consisting of a retail dispensary with delivery services, as well as distribution and cultivation operations. The agreement was approved November 2019 and required project completion and commencement of operations within a year. In preparation for the council's October 2023 review of the development agreement, the developer provided updated information which indicated that work to develop the dispensary would commence before the end of 2023, and the dispensary would open in early 2024 with cultivation operations to start shortly thereafter. During that review, council approved a resolution that provided an extension to the original project deadline. And in June 2024, council approved an amendment that provided a new project deadline of June 30th, 2025. That amendment stated that failure to obtain a certificate of occupancy by the June 30, 2025 date would result in the nullification of the agreement. The development has still not been completed, and in June of this year, staff contacted the developer to note the project's inactivity, inquire as to their interest in proceeding with the project, and request additional information about project plans. That notice also provided them identification that the public hearing on October 20th, this evening, would be used to review their development agreement. And there has been no response from the developer to any of these communications. Given that the development was never completed, once again, this business is not complying with material terms of the agreement by providing employment opportunities, additional revenues, or community benefits. And once again, that development agreement provides the council the ability to find that they are in default if they are not meeting the terms, material terms of the agreement. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that upon the basis of substantial evidence, the council adopt a resolution that finds the developer out of compliance and in default of the agreement and provide written notice of the intent to revoke the agreement if action to cure is not taken within 30 days. The third development agreement to be reviewed is the agreement between the city and Red Mule Group, LLC. That agreement provides for the development of a microbusiness consisting of a retail dispensary with delivery services, as well as manufacturing and distribution operations. That agreement was approved July 2021. That project involved the purchase of city property and required project development to commence within 90 days after permit issuance. Permits for interior demolition and electrical work were issued January 2022, and a permit for the firewall separation was issued September 2022. In August of 2023, the city advised the developer that it was not complying with the terms of the agreement. Shortly thereafter, the developer provided the city with a development schedule which indicated that they would have a grand opening July 2024. In June 2024, council approved an amendment that provided a new project deadline of June 30th, 2025. Once again, the amendment stated that failure to obtain a certificate of occupancy by that date would result in nullification of the agreement. In June of this year, staff sent a letter to the developer noting the project inactivity, inquiring as to the developer's interest in proceeding with the project, and requesting information about project plans, and once again advising of the October 20th public hearing date. Because the original letter was returned as undeliverable, the city sent multiple emails, and in response to one of those emails at the developer's request, sent notification to a second physical mailing address. In August, the developer indicated a desire to move forward with the development, but did not provide any additional information about development efforts, as the city had requested. Developer indicated that they would follow up with the city in mid-September, but no subsequent communication occurred. On October 3rd, the city provided notice of the public hearing via both mail and email. Once again, no additional communication has occurred. And as stated with the earlier example, based on the fact that operations have never begun, the city has not been in receipt of any of the material terms that are called for in the agreement. Therefore, it's staff's recommendation that the council adopt a resolution that finds the developer out of compliance and in default of the development agreement and issue written notice of same, providing 30 days to cure. The fourth development agreement subject to review is that between the city and PH Investment Group, LLC, also known as Element 7, which pertains to a retail dispensary with ancillary delivery services. That agreement was approved April 2021, and the business commenced operation March 2022. Beginning in September of last year, the developer stopped making timely contractual payments equal to 5% of its gross revenues. Reminders regarding these overdue payments were communicated on a regular basis. The September 2024 payment was made in January, but payments for the months of October 2024 through June of this year were never received. Interestingly, payments for July and August of this year were provided to the city. At present, the developer owes the city $50,945.80. This slide itemizes those costs, including amounts for the missed contractual payments, late fees, supplemental compliance inspection, financial audit, and the development review fee. It should also be noted that while not on this list, the invoice for the annual regulatory inspection is being processed, and that would be an additional cost that the developer is responsible for. In June of this year, staff notified the developer that it was out of compliance, requested payment for the outstanding amount due, and advised that the development agreement would be reviewed at this October 20th meeting. In July, staff visited the store and subsequently made more than a dozen attempts using email and phone to facilitate a plan for the developer to get back into compliance. Ultimately, the developer missed scheduled meetings and stopped communicating with staff. In September, the city formally offered a payment plan and sent communication regarding the scheduling of the annual regulatory inspection. Later in the month, the city was contacted by a third party who indicated that he was hired to assist the business with compliance issues. The individual inquired whether a regulatory inspection was appropriate, considering the business was not operating. This was the first communication the city had received that the business was not operating. In early October, the city provided the developer with notice of this public hearing, and shortly thereafter, the city received notice that a court-appointed receiver had been assigned to manage the business's assets. Based on my conversation with the receiver's legal representative earlier today, I understand that the receiver is here this evening and intends to speak on this item. Further, I understand that the receiver is prepared to make a payment for all outstanding costs other than the late fees, if the city council were to agree to waive those fees. Staff is encouraged and excited to restart communications with this business about how the developer might get back into compliance. However, I just wanted to note that the city's objective is to hold all businesses to the same standard, and the late fees are included as an assessed penalty for failure to pay within the required time frame, and serve as an enforcement mechanism to encourage timely compliance from all businesses. So once again, the recommendation here is to make a finding of default and provide 30 days to cure. If the council is inclined to consider options with the receiver here, we would be happy to communicate with the receiver, see if we can come to a mutual agreement and return to the council with a plan that would allow for the curing of the agreement. The final agreement subject to review at the hearing is that between the city and the Fire Garden Group LLC, which once again is for a retail dispensary with ancillary delivery services. That agreement was approved in March 2022, and the business opened for operation in December of 23. In August of last year, the business stopped making contractual payments, which are equal to 5% of its gross revenues, despite regular reminders about these overdue payments from the city. In June of this year, staff notified the developer was out of compliance, requested payment for the outstanding amount, and advised that the development agreement would be reviewed tonight on October 20th. The total outstanding amount from this developer is $56,686.91. Once again, this slide provides an itemization of the costs, including the missed contractual payments, associated late fees, costs associated with the business's initial approval process, financial audit, and annual review fee. In July and August, staff attempted to visit the business on a number of occasions, and it was closed each of those occasions. I also used email and telephone to communicate with the developer. Staff communicated concerns about the developer's lack of response to city outreach, as well as its failure to renew its business license, missing monthly reports that are required to be provided, and two concerns regarding the business's hours of operation, one being reports that it was open and active after its permitted hours of operation, and a second about intermittent or closed during regular business hours. The developer confirmed that activity had happened after its permitted hours of operation, but assured staff that action had been taken to ensure that this would not reoccur. It also shortly thereafter took action to renew the business license and provide missing monthly reports. In September, staff formally offered a payment plan, continued to attempt to visit the business in person, and provided notice regarding the annual regulatory inspection. The developer has not executed the payment plan. The business has continued to remain closed, and the annual inspection, which is a requirement of the conditional use permit, was not conducted as the business was closed and no representatives were present at the date and time that was scheduled. Earlier this month, staff sent notification about this hearing so the developer would be aware. And once again, based on these facts, staff is recommending that council adopt a resolution finding the developer to be out of compliance and providing written notice in accordance with that finding. In addition to reviewing those agreements, this item provides the opportunity to discuss the city's cap on the number of cannabis-based businesses in the city. When the city's cannabis program began, the market was still developing and competition was somewhat limited. As noted, the city's primary purpose for this program was to enhance the general fund revenues, And the city ended up approving, as the city manager referenced earlier, a total of 17 development agreements. Based on staff's recent communication with cannabis businesses, it is apparent that many are finding the current business environment challenging and much different than when the city's program began. Discussions with these businesses have included concerns about competition from illegal cannabis sales, high state taxes and difficult regulatory requirements, increased competition from adjacent cities, and some broader economic challenges. As we know, Emerald Perspective closed earlier this year, and as we discussed this evening, HPC has permanently closed as well. Element 7 and Fire Garden are not currently operating, and based on my conversations, there are a number of other cannabis businesses that have experienced operational challenges. Section 3987.1 of the Municipal Code sets the cap on the number of businesses that are allowed. For quick review, it allows 12 retail dispensaries, 6 delivery-only businesses, 5 cannabis lounges, 10 manufacturing licenses, and 8 distribution licenses. Given current market conditions, staff is recommending that the council provide direction to staff to consider the appropriate number of businesses that should be allowed to operate in the city and return with a proposed revision to that section of the municipal code. As part of the item, we're asking council to make a CEQA finding that this action is categorically exempt. Section 15309 provides that inspections to check for performance of operations is one of the CEQA exemptions. And the fiscal impact. So making a finding of default for any or all of these agreements does not have a direct financial impact. If any were to eventually be revoked, if they were not cured, it would prevent any of these businesses from providing revenues in the future, but right now none of them are providing revenues to the city. Any monies that are owed by businesses that have been opened we would continue to pursue the collection of those funds regardless of any action here this evening. And in closing, just a restatement of the recommendation. It's to open the public hearing and take testimonial and documentary evidence, close the public hearing and consider the evidence, and adopt resolutions determining that the following cannabis businesses are out of compliance and in default of their respective development agreements, providing for the revocation of the agreement and initiation of the process to repeal and revoke associated conditional use permits if such default is not cured within 30 days. HPC, Port Hueneme Organic Team, Red Mule, PH Investments Group, and Fire Garden. And direct staff to prepare an amendment for future consideration by the City Council to Section 3987.1 of the Port Hueneme Municipal Code to reduce the maximum number of cannabis-based businesses and make a determination that the project is exempt from CEQA and take such additional related action that may be desirable. That concludes the staff presentation. I'm available for questions.
Great, thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to highlight on that last slide the reminder that by finding any business out of compliance, they actually do have one more 30-day period to cure. So, we had a little bit of a wrinkle today with one of the businesses coming in today to talk to us, but taking the recommended action doesn't preclude us from having that conversation, and if we believe that the businesses can cure, any of the businesses come forward with a plan to cure the issues, we could bring those back to council to consider. But I just wanted to reiterate that even with that wrinkle, our recommendation is to remains the same, to proceed with this plan, and then that we would pursue the curing those within those 30 days. So, thank you.
Great. Are there any questions for staff? No comments. We'll hold comments and discussion till later. Councilmember Perez.
Yes, thank you. I have a couple of questions. The first one is regarding HPC. Is their Oxnard location open and active and taking in revenue?
To the best of my knowledge, it is open. It's the one located near the Esplanade.
I did not see amounts owing, how much they are in default. Is there any way to collect from that open business what they owe us?
Yeah, the amount is approximately $13,000 that they owe the city. And yes, regardless of any action taken tonight, the city would continue to pursue opportunities to collect from them.
Okay. My second question is, how long out of compliance before the state starts getting involved as it did with Emerald Perspective?
Well, it's the one distinction just to make on Emerald Perspective is that our understanding was that they were out of compliance with state licensing requirements. And so we are not sure. We know that these businesses are out of compliance with our development agreements. We don't know that that doesn't necessarily mean they're out of compliance with the state licensing requirements. But our understanding was that they had been out of compliance for quite a while because we had heard that the state had some concerns. And just for maybe something people might not know is that there is some coordination between the city and the state regulations where there's some communication on going back and forth, and so we do tend to hear about those things. So I don't think we've heard of any state issues related to any of these businesses.
We have not. There are a number of different state requirements. One of them through the through the CDTFA is the requirement to pay excise taxes to the state. And if they find that a business is in default or not doing that appropriately, they'll revoke the seller's permit. That was the case with Emerald Perspective, but the city does get notice when that occurs, and we have not received such notice for these businesses.
Okay, and my final question is with Element 7. I understand there's a receiver, but what is the intent of the business? Is it planned to take care of its debt and then reopen, or just take care of its debt?
So my recommendation, I believe the receiver's here, so my recommendation would be asking them for their plan. I know we had reached out to get the plan. I don't think we had received one until maybe right before the meeting, so I would suggest letting them explain it, because I don't think we're prepared to.
And that is the end of my questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Gama?
So HPC, have we attempted to collect from the monies that they owe us?
Attempts have been made, notifications have been provided to the business owners, and requests have been made. Finance department gets into a multi-phased approach. One is just communicating directly, offering to set up payment plans, requesting payment for outstanding monies. And after a certain period of time, when that is unsuccessful, we transition to actually using a collection agency to try to recover those dollars.
And are the late payments accruing as more time goes on? Because I noticed that one of them, the late payment was more than the initial amount principal owed. So is that how it's written?
It is. The late payments accrue. Really, the best thing businesses can do is communicate with the city. If they communicate and they start making payments, or they enter into a payment plan, the city stops the late payments. But when payments are missed and there's no communication with the city, late payments are applied for each month when that payment that's due is not paid.
Right. So is there a mechanism for the city to negotiate out the late payments? I mean, because it just seems like we're not going to get paid unless we come to the table.
Yeah. With council direction, we would be able to negotiate the amount of the late payments.
I believe that's part of the request that Element 7 is going to make tonight. And the only comment we would have about that is that we've really put a focus on, in the last couple of months as we had some staff changes, we have really put a focus on creating communication with all of the dispensaries, and credit to Charles, who I think has actually gone out and met with every single business in the last 2 to 3 months. And one of the things that we heard loud and clear from the businesses is that the businesses that are doing all those things right and are spending all of those dollars, paying their taxes, paying their fees, they said, make sure everybody's being held to that standard, because I'm pretty sure that it's a small community, and that they know when one's paying their taxes and one isn't, or one's paying their development agreement fees and one isn't. So we actually heard loud and clear from some of the businesses who said, we know we're doing things the right way. Are you holding everybody else to these standards? And so I think there was a little period, we had some staff transition where things got behind, over those 6 to 12 months, but we have been meeting with them to get everybody caught back up. Like Charles said, our finance department has gone above and beyond to offer payment plans and meet with people to explain it and walk through it. And there are some businesses who took us up on that and then actually did get back into full compliance after a couple rough months are those months we talked about where the state had increased the taxes and it caught everybody off guard. And now that that's rolled back, some of those businesses are catching back up. But you know, I think that's going to be a request. It's something we're willing to have that conversation on, but we just have to remember that we have 17 businesses to treat fairly and equally.
Right, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but each one of these businesses understood the late payment program when they signed the dotted line.
Yeah, the development agreements refer to late fees that everybody signed on board.
Okay.
You know, that all businesses signed on to those development agreements.
Right, it was clear on the late payments. Okay, so maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
It's in the agreement, I guess. If you're asking if everybody understood what they signed, I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
Councilmember Hernandez.
So do we know if each of these businesses actually own the property that they are in right now? Or are they leasing properties, or, for instance, Red Mule? I mean, they bought that building, right?
Yes, so I was gonna say we would have records on each of those, so we could answer those. I don't think we identified that in tonight's meeting, so we would have to bring that information back. But Red Mule bought the property from us, so they do own their property. I'm looking at the others.
Okay,
None of the others jump out at me.
Just as an example, if they can't cure their debt within 30 days, what happens? Can we?
Well, Red Mule's a
how
little.
do we recoup our costs? Do we go after the property? What do we do?
So just a couple of maybe distinctions is that there are a couple of these businesses that are being considered tonight that actually don't owe any money. So Red Mule, as the example, they just aren't in compliance because they are making no progress to getting open. And you all may remember that we actually had this conversation, I think 2 years ago, and we decided to give them one more chance. So for them, you know, what they'd have to do to get into compliance and cure within 30 days is they would need to open their micro business in the next 30 days, which is, or at least make significant progress towards it. I think it's 3 of them. So that's 2 of them that do not owe dollars. That's not their issue. So the 3 that do, I think we have a couple of steps, but collections and a couple of things. But at the end of the day, if they don't own their property, it may be, and if they've closed down, it may be difficult to collect. But we are going to do our best to do what we can.
And then my last question: if I don't see the breakdown of the number of cannabis businesses allowed under our ordinance, can you just rattle those off again, please?
Sure. The municipal code allows for 12 retail cannabis dispensaries,
Okay.
6 delivery-only businesses, 5 cannabis lounges, 10 manufacturing licenses, and 8 distribution licenses.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, so specifically talking about HPC Fire Garden, since they got so far behind, what process do we have in place once they pass 30 days, 60 days? You know, this should have been brought up to the council, not 4, 5, 6 months down the road, right? So what process do we have that's our trigger to start the 30-day clock? Do we have one?
We do have a process. I think what I would say is we moved the cannabis program into the city manager's office July 1st, and immediately it became apparent that several of these had been several months behind. And I think really it just boils down to, this is the first time we're really having this conversation about actually like really enforcing the development agreements. And I think that those two go together. The reason we're having this conversation is because as we moved into the city manager's office, we started to review and we saw that they were several months behind. That, you know, we tend to get the response of like, you know, from businesses saying like, yeah, we'll get back on track or we'll get back to you, but you can't let that go forever. And then, like I said earlier, and then we met with the businesses, and one of the biggest things we heard was hold everybody to the same rules and enforce the requirements that we're having to meet. So that led to why we put this on the agenda and why we brought it forward. So, but we do have internal processes. I think we have our finance department flags when businesses are falling out of compliance. I think the missing piece was then, now it's going to be the city manager's office then saying, okay, they're too far out of compliance and we need to bring it forward. It does take some time, just to make the point of like, and I think the council is aware, I had flagged this saying this would be coming to a council meeting probably 2 months ago, but there's a public hearing notice a requirement, and then we have to get it scheduled on the agenda. So it does take a couple months. So I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if we flag it when people fall a month or two behind, we're probably going to be talking about it potentially when they're 3 or 4 months behind. But we're going to be more on top of it than we have been in the past.
Now, Emerald Perspective, did we recoup any money that was due?
We did receive a payment from them before the business completely went under. And we did file a claim with the state, as the state had seized their property and their assets. We have not received a response from the state in regards to that claim as of yet. And the finance department is continuing to make efforts to use collection methods to collect any money. But just that initial payment before the business completely closed is what we recovered.
Okay, so if, let's say I'm Emerald Perspective and I know I'm going to be going out of business, what's the process, what's the mechanism to get out of that agreement? Do we have one?
Is the question like if they wanted to stay open? And
No, I'm quitting business because
Okay.
I'm just not making it, and I need to cease operations.
Yeah.
What's step one? Do we have this? Because it seems like we're asking them that they're not in compliance, but they're going out of business, so they're not gonna get in compliance because they're exiting the door, right? So, does our ordinance state how to get out of this agreement?
It doesn't state how to get out of it, but the process is what Emerald Perspective ended up doing after, you know, I'm sure council members, but maybe not everybody watching, but the Emerald Perspective came to a couple meetings and said, give us a chance to get back into compliance. And then ultimately, after 2 or 3 attempts, and I think we had given them like one last chance, they essentially sent us a notice that, you know, we're closing, we aren't going to continue, and we aren't going to pursue this agreement any further. So any business could send us that, and essentially we would know, you know, that the agreement is coming to an end, and basically agendize it to come to council to accept the termination of that development agreement. So that would be the process. I think the challenge for us has been more that most businesses are saying, you know, we're going to keep trying and give us some more time to keep trying, or can you, you know, hold off on these requirements for a couple more months. That's really been the challenge that we're now trying to make sure everybody understands, that we need to hold everybody to the agreements.
So when was the city informed that Element 7 went into a receivership?
Beginning of October.
Do we have a reason why?
We received notice that court documents indicated that a receiver had been appointed. We did not receive additional information. I'll turn to the city attorney. I know she communicated with the legal representative for the receiver. Perhaps she has more information.
No, we were not provided the information of what prompted the appointment of a receiver. Just that a receiver was appointed. We received a copy of the order of receivership. I've had some communications with their attorney, certainly because the city was not a party to that lawsuit. It was based in Santa Monica, which I thought was kind of interesting. we're not bound by that receivership order, nor does it have any, really any effect on the city.
And since, so we technically have 12 of the 17 dispensaries in compliance?
I would say that we strategically sort of try to group them with the 5 that we think are pretty clearly out of compliance, so we could have this conversation. We're planning to bring back the ones that are generally in compliance, and there's probably a group of them that are generally in compliance. When I say generally, that means in compliance with most of the terms of the agreement, but there might be 1 or 2 things that they're out of compliance on, and so we're going to bring those back for a conversation, and then we have a group that are fully in compliance, and it's pretty much probably in those thirds. It's probably like 5, 5, and 5. But the other, these are the ones that have fallen significantly behind and haven't come back to work with us on like a payment plan or, and actually sit down and work it out and start making payments on it. So these are the 5 that have not met that requirement.
And that was it.
Yeah, just one question, City Manager. You said 5, 5, 5, so we actually have 15.
I was just giving a rough approximation.
Okay, so how
It's
many do
basically
we
a third.
have that are?
So we had 17. Emerald Perspective is now technically done. The development agreement is canceled, so we now have 16. And then this is 5 of those 16.
Can I have one more question?
One more, go ahead.
So when we feel that, that say they're at day 60 and we're waiting to get in council, why can't we amend our ordinance so that the city manager has the authority to start the revocation of the agreement? And then it can come to council?
The simple answer, and I've been asked a few questions that sort of tie back to this question of, can we change the agreements now? And the simple answer is we technically could, but because there's 17 or 16 of them, and there's not really much incentive to the businesses to renegotiate their deal with us right now, that hasn't been an approach we've attempted. My guess is, even just, getting some to respond for the review is difficult enough. So my guess, and actually I could say this factually, is we had done some adjustments to the development agreements to try to reduce their fees about 18 months ago. And some of the businesses still haven't returned those agreements, which is actually like, hey, sign here and you'll save money. And some still haven't done that. So it's in a perfect world, I think, it's one of those things where timing's important. I think when cannabis businesses were really doing well and there was really a big incentive, and Hueneme was the only city in town, or city in the county, and they really wanted to focus on Hueneme, we probably could have renegotiated these agreements, but we're just at a point where it doesn't seem very feasible. But I think what we're looking to do is be more on top of not letting them fall 5 or 6 months behind. And I think that solves a lot of the issues we're talking about.
Great. Any other questions?
Just one follow-up. Is it safe to say that we have 3 dispensaries that are mostly compliant and not in default on payments to the city?
I think we have a few more than that. I think we have.
I was talking dispensaries, but so the delivery services is something that we never hear about, and I'd be interested to understand what's the breakdown, delivery versus dispensary, and clearly the manufacturing is never turned a sale, therefore there's no money owed to the city. Correct?
Yeah, the manufacturing and cultivation really haven't done much. I would say, I think so we said these are the 5 that are really almost completely out of compliance. I would say the other, what does that leave, 11 are at least generally, if not completely in compliance. They're
Right,
sort
and
of
then
in that good to great category.
What I'm trying to understand is, of those 11, how many are dispensaries? And I forgot the name of the dispensary on Bolker, which was cultivation and
Well,
dispensary.
we shouldn't necessarily talk about specific dispensaries
Okay.
tonight, but there is one on Bolker that has cultivation, and the only issue, well,
Okay.
we're off topic.
We have a total of 5 delivery businesses,
Yeah.
if that helps answer your question. And the remaining businesses that were not discussed tonight will be presented at a future council meeting to the city council.
Right, and any business that wasn't in business and didn't generate any sales wouldn't have any obligation to pay us any money, therefore,
Yep.
not a part of this.
Yep.
Okay.
The 2 of those businesses that never opened, never generated any money are being proposed, are part of this tonight.
Right, correct.
Great, thank you. So we've concluded our questions. So we're now going to open the public hearing for public input. The time is now 8:26. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
Yes, we have one public comment from Mr. Kevin Singer.
Good evening, City Council and City Attorneys. I'm Kevin Singer. I'm the court-appointed receiver, and I work for Judge Mark Younger out of Santa Monica Court. I'm going to reply to you guys briefly, but I'm going to answer your questions too. I jotted them down as I was sitting here listening in. The reason why this was filed out of Santa Monica was because this involves 7 dispensaries for Element 7, not just the one in Port Hueneme, but also other ones all throughout the state of California. So that was the venue that was used for it, to answer that question. My main responsibility is I was appointed to run and operate PH Investments, or Element 7, who's located at 455 West Channel Island Boulevard. And the reason why I was appointed is because there was a senior secured creditor who wasn't being paid. And so what they did is they went to the courts and said, hey, we're not being paid, so can we have a court-appointed receiver put in charge of all their businesses to try to salvage them, run, operate them, and hopefully sell them to help pay them and pay other creditors and pay the city's taxes as well. So the goal of my receivership is to run and operate these businesses so taxes and creditors and investors can be paid. And like I said, most importantly is the city, which needs to be paid as well. Just over the last 15 years, I've run and operated over 35 of these businesses. I've run and operated over 50 retail operations, so I'm very familiar with these businesses. And everything the city attorney said about them being overly challenged these days is completely true. For all the reasons they mentioned, it's not the business it once was. But the one thing I want to say is about this location there is that it is a good location, and I think it is a viable business, and I think it can make it with the right management in place. The reason why I came tonight was to ask the council not to put this location in default or revocation and give us 30 days to bring the taxes current. But after listening, I guess we're going to have time anyways that I learned tonight to pay these taxes and everything so that we can do that, which I sincerely appreciate. Thank you very much. Certainly, it would help us tremendously if the late fees, which are almost as much as the fees that are due, could be, eliminated. I mean, we're currently talking with your finance department. I already have a commitment from the senior secured to pay the actual taxes, which is about $27,000. I haven't gotten the late fees out of them yet, but it would help us tremendously. But that's obviously something you need to decide as a city council.
Great.
Yeah.
Can we hear a few? No.
Yeah, I would suggest, since he's representing one of the parties, that he
go right ahead.
Okay, great. I mean, those are the main thing that I got up here to say. I stand ready to answer any questions you might have, either about this specific business or about the cannabis industry in general. Our main goal for this location is to get it back reopened again as quickly as possible, and then get it operating, and then find new ownership to come in and take over and run and operate it. Our senior secured is a company called NUG, which is a very large cannabis company throughout the state of California. That I don't think they're going to see their money paid back, so they're very interested in potentially taking over this location and running and operating it. So that's most likely the direction we'll go as this moves forward. I think it would be a great operator, very stable, very compliant, and a good person to have in this community. Okay, that's it. And I'm ready to answer any other questions.
I'm not sure we want to take, this is the public comment section. We're going to come back to a discussion. Are you going to be here?
If you'd like me to, I'd be
Okay,
happy
can
to.
you just wait just a minute? Do we have any other public comments?
No other public
Okay,
comments.
well, there you go. Any questions? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, so, city, assistant city manager, you said that they paid July, August, taxes, or to the general fund, correct? So September, were they compliant?
The month of September, they were not operating.
Okay. So is the goal of Element 7 is like a venture capitalist, you get the business groomed to sell? The primary goal?
Yes. I mean, we're going to get it reopened again. That's the goal. Obviously, I think NUG is very interested in coming in and running and operating this, but they want to be reassured that it's, not going to be shut down. If they're going to invest money, pay taxes, things like that, that the intention is not to close down the business. And I'm not asking the city to give a response to that, but based on my experience, I think it's a viable location. I think it could be a good business there, and that's the direction we're going to go.
City Attorney, you have anything?
The only comment I have is with respect to a new operator. Wouldn't that operator need to be approved by both the state and the city? And I don't think that has happened yet. And also in connection with a potential sale, that would have to be approved by Judge Younger, is my understanding of the process. And that hasn't happened yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. All those things need to happen, including, well, first, we need to get straightened out with the city. We need to get on good terms with the city and everything. We need to work towards reopening this location and know that's going to be a viable path forward. And then the next step is we'd bring it in for a court approval with the court to approve it. And then the next step would probably be we can do it now. We'd probably enter into some type of management service agreement. So they're not owners of it, but they're running and operating the business under the receivership as a manager of the business, even though the receiver's still overseeing it, making sure they're making payments, making sure they're doing everything legal. And then the court approves it, and then it comes to the city, and the city has to interview them and decide if they're going to allow them to become owners of the business. And then the next step is we have to take it to the state, and we have to get the state to issue them new licenses if the city is willing to take them on as owners. So yes, there's a lot of steps.
Excuse me. My understanding is that the state has authorized you to be the operator, not somebody else. Is that correct?
Operator, overseer of the business, it doesn't preclude me from hiring management companies to come in and manage and operating it. And that's what they'd be. Their role would be management.
Do you have any other questions, Mayor Pro Tem? Did you have something?
Yeah.
Yes, just we aren't doing this yet, but but just I was going to just note, typically when we do these reviews, if I would always advise it starts to maybe turn into a a negotiation on the dais, which
Sure.
is always challenging. So I'll just note that, and our city attorney just said, do not do that. So, but I'll just note that, again, with that 30-day period, that what we can commit to do, if the council agrees, is that we will have our team connect with Mr. Singer, which I do appreciate you coming out and representing. So we can have our team connect and put together something that can be presented to the council to consider within that period.
Great, thank you. You have any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah. Are you prepared to pay the principal balance?
That's what's been indicated me today. They had meetings with the senior secured, and they have indicated that they're willing to advance that money to the receivership estate to pay the principal. So the answer is yes.
Thank you.
Right. Any questions? Have any questions? Okay. So if there are no other public comments, we're going to close the public hearing, and the time is now 8:36. So we have the recommendation before us. Deputy City Manager, do I need to read this over? Or council members, you see the recommendations. I'm sure you've reviewed the recommendations. May I have a motion and a second? Right? So these are the recommendations of staff.
So moved.
And Mayor, if we can
And so-
just note,
Oh, go ahead.
within that, I assume
It says
there's
30 days.
direction for staff to reach out to Mr. Singer.
Yes. And that, and a voting in the affirmative is to move all items into default, allowing for the 30-day.
Right.
Everybody got that? Okay. Any other discussion, comments? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Gama,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Perez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Yes.
And Mayor McQueen-Lejeune.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great. Thank you for your report, Charles. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 10, introduce ordinance to adopt 2025 edition of the California Building Standards Code. Madam Clerk, do you have proof of publication as required by law and a complete file of reports and exhibits?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Great. Will staff present the report?
Yes, thank you. And I'm gonna hand it over. We do our building code updates every 3 years, and I'm gonna introduce our building official, Tom Juzwiak, who goes through this process, leads us through these processes, and he's here to give a little bit of information on this year's building code update.
Thank you. This is a little dry, just to be honest. All right. Thank you for having me here tonight. Before you is the introduction of the ordinance for the adoption of the Building Code Standards Code with the city's local amendments. Every 3 years, we have to adopt the code. They are reissued by the state, and in those codes, we have adopted local amendments. And for those amendments to carry through, we need to re-adopt them every 3 years with the code cycle. This year is a little bit fun. The state has approved an Assembly Bill 130, which restricts prohibits the cities from considering approving or adopting any proposed building standards affecting residential units, unless certain conditions are met. This effectively says that the cities cannot adopt any amendments to the building code that would affect residential units between October 1st, 2025 and June 1st, 2031. With that said, we are carrying forward all of the amendments from the previous code cycle. There is one change that was amended to the ordinance and the staff report earlier, and that is to add Appendix G of the building code. And what this is for the floodplain construction, and to allow the building code to align with the requirements of the floodplain management program. So with that, we have the other amendments that we're carrying forward are pool fencing, foundation and grading improvement requirements, because we have expansive soils. Pool design requirements, we are adopting the International Property Maintenance Code again. That is to help us with the code enforcement. And then post-disaster safety assessment placards. That's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Are there any questions? Any questions at all?
Just,
yes.
Did you mention
Question.
Appendix G?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I missed it.
I was looking for that in the report. I couldn't find it.
The update was issued this morning.
Yes, so we issued the update this morning that included Appendix G
Oh, that was the
to
update.
maintain floodplain map consistency.
Correct.
Okay, great.
I do have a really quick question.
Go right in.
Does the building code regulate signage? Or is that somewhere else in our ordinance?
According, like size of signs?
Size of signs, placement of signs?
No, that would actually be in the planning code.
It's in our city code. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Director Pro Tem.
So for development for mixed use, like residential, commercial, is there anything that the city can enforce?
Oh,
For like mixed zoning?
We enforce the minimum building code still. So the minimum code still applies. We can't just go above any of the minimum code that we haven't previously adopted. And all of our amendments also have to be backed by findings that are either climatic, topographical, or geological in nature that allows us to find a reason that we can impose that within the city.
Has there has been any city in California that is challenging this ruling?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
In the past, and Tom has been building official in a lot of cities in the county, and so in the past, some of the cities in our county, when the updated fire maps and updated fire standards come out, those become additional building code requirements that cities will argue about, and so there has been times in the past, but this year with that new state law that basically says we can't do much, we haven't heard about anybody really trying that this cycle. But it is a good thing that it's dry this year. Our update is dry, not the weather, because it means that we don't have those kinds of problems added on. So,
but to tag on what James is saying, in the next meeting, what day was that? Sorry. November 17th, yeah. On the November 17th, we're going to bring this back and have a second public hearing or that's a recommendation, to reintroduce this. But along with that, we're going to parallel that with the fire code, which we use Ventura County Fire Protection District. And so they enforce the fire code for us. And so there are amendments to their code that we have to accept. And so that'll be agendized on the November 17th meeting as a resolution to adopt their amendments, to specific portions of their amendments. There's only certain things that we can accept.
Great. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I'm looking at Assembly Bill 130 as to what the significance is of it. It's just a bunch of, is there anything that stands out that we should be aware of?
There's a lot in that.
Yeah.
It is a very, very large and detailed A lot of it has to do with, it's all about housing. And so what I look at, is pull everything out, is about the building code. And this is the biggest impact on the building code. For the next 6 years, which means the next two code cycles, the cities cannot amend the code unless there's specific reasons for emergency ordinances.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, the public hearing is now open for public input, and the time is 8:45. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
No public comments.
Great. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. It's still 8:45. And so we have before us 3 items, 3 recommendations. Introduce the first reading by title only and waive further reading of the ordinance entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme, California, amending Article 8, Building Regulations of the Port Hueneme Municipal Code, incorporating the California Building Standard Code by reference as follows. 1, California Building Code and Appendices C, G, I, and J. California Residential Building Code with Appendix BF, and California Green Building Standard Code 2025 edition. Number 2, California Electrical Code 2025 edition. Number 3, California Plumbing Code 2025 edition. Number 4, California Mechanical Code 2025 edition. Number 5, California Administrative Code 2025 edition. 6, California Energy Code 2025 edition. Number 7, California Existing Building Code 2025 edition. Number 8, California Wildland Urban Interface Code 2025 edition. International Property 9, International Property Maintenance Code 2024 edition. Number 10, International Swimming Pool and Spa Code 2024 edition. Number 10, Gypsum Association Fire Resistive Design Manual 23rd edition, GA 600 2024, and making miscellaneous revisions to Article 8 Building Regulations to provide consistency with the California Building Standards Code. And number 2, schedule a public hearing for the City Council's November 17th, 2025 meeting to consider adoption of the proposed ordinance. And number 3, designate the city clerk to publish a summary of the proposed ordinance at least 5 days before the City Council meeting at which the proposed ordinance is to be considered for adoption. May I have a motion and a second?
Are we supposed to have 2 10s in there? Or is the international swimming?
I think that's a typo. It's
Should
number
be
should be
11?
10 and then 11.
Okay.
So I
10,
think we have
11.
to
Okay,
we have to
got
read
it.
it all over
Thank
again.
you, thank you. Got caught up reading. You want me to read it?
No.
Gotta read it again?
No.
Okay, thank you for that. And with that, may we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Oh, second.
All right, any discussion? No? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Okay, Councilmember Gama,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes.
Councilmember Perez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lopez.
Yes.
And Mayor McQueen-LaJean.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, now we're going to move to item 11, the business item park reservation process overview. Will staff please present the report?
Thank you. And Anna Hanley, our Recreation and Community Services Manager, is going to give a presentation. We wanted to provide this presentation. We had said when we got the Bubbling Springs project done and got some new facilities available to the public online, that the first 6 months, but probably more like a year, was going to be a learning period, and that we'd come back to council and talk about what's working, what's not working, and what things we were looking at doing. So I think this is the first of those where we've had some experience now renting out the facilities at the park, and we've learned a couple things and then some things we want to try out. So with that, I'll hand it over to Anna Hanley.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, members of the public, and staff. As the city manager mentioned, item 11 on the agenda is intended to provide an overview of the park reservation system with a focus on the newly offered amenities at Bubbling Springs Park. This evening's presentation will highlight the process by which to place a reservation, reviews associated fees, and discusses future considerations. As pictured here, we have the 4 ball fields, which are no longer exclusively used by the Port Hueneme Little League. These fields are reservable outside of the predetermined hours covered under the priority use agreement with the league. Related to Port Hueneme Little League's operation of the concession stand is picnic area number 2. Immediately adjacent to the snack bar, this covered picnic area is only reservable when the league does not have established field reservations, and these dates are pre-built into the reservation system. Also on this slide is picnic area number 1. That picnic area, on the other hand, thus far is our most popular and sought-after reservable space within the park, which is likely due to its proximity to the playground and the public restroom building. Also featured on this slide are multi-use fields number 1 and number 2, and those are the synthetic turf fields in the south portion of the park parcel, which are also in constant use. However, we have not yet seen a high volume of formal reservations for this space. It's increasing, but most users are partaking in an impromptu play in this particular portion of the facility. Here we have photographs of the reservation kiosks, which are adjacent to the reservable amenities. Featured within the kiosks are the titles of the reservable space, and this helps members of the public identify these spaces when referencing them on the city's website. We're providing a QR code that will also take anyone directly to the reservation landing page, where they can create their user account and begin the reservation process. Inside of the kiosk is also where you can find current permits posted. We ask for general awareness that anyone occupying these spaces check the kiosk for potential incoming reservations or permits. And alongside all of that, you can also find the contact information for the Recreation and Community Services Division within those kiosks. So from that QR code that I mentioned in the previous slide, an interested party can find themselves then on the Civic Rec registration platform. After creating a user account, a full menu of pricing options becomes available, and the prospective reservations may be submitted for review. Staff conducts a review of every pending reservation submission prior to payment and permit issuance. And we are reviewing these reservation submissions for alignment with the required time frame. We currently require submissions to be no less than 3 business days and no farther out than 21 business days. We're also verifying the scope of use. Is this a straightforward reservation from a community member, or for instance, is this a tournament use request? We're also checking to see if the reservation is categorically subject to the collection of a certificate of insurance. We need to verify residency or collect 501c3 documentation. Once the review is complete, account holders are prompted via email to finalize their payment, and then they receive a receipt and a permit in return by email. I did want to note that outside of permitted reservations, all amenities are operated on a first-come, first-served basis. This slide features the fee schedule for amenities within Bubbling Springs Park. There is a distinction of resident versus non-resident fees. Fees are higher for the use of lights at the ball fields and multi-use fields. There are minimum hour requirements and no current cap on maximum number of hours. Fees do not include the presence of a staff attendant or preparatory maintenance beyond regular scheduled activity. And I did want to also note that we did identify there is a meeting room space that is also available for reservation within the Sports Plaza building. However, it's very limited in scope and outside of the Port Hueneme Little League seasonal use, and so those are just a few dates within the entire calendar year. It has been identified that additional signage in regards to reservable spaces needs to be included. It also needs to include the expectations to vacate the amenity in alignment with any pre-reserved time that is supported by a permit. We've also always known that there would be an ongoing assessment of fee rates and varying user groups, and we're consistently monitoring activity in the park and encourage inquiries and invite the public to communicate their needs when it comes to public spaces. We intend to roll out a post-reservation survey process, so please look for that in the coming months. I think we'll find that beneficial as we go forward. And staff is also hopeful that this presentation specifically will increase awareness and participation in the reservation process. Quite frankly, we're building an entirely new culture when it comes to reservable spaces in our park system. And with these changes, we hope to acclimate everyone to the evolving reservations as they become available. And we're now available for any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions?
Yes, so I do support the additional signage issue. And as you are aware, I happened to be in the area where an issue came up that is bringing this, is the reason for that additional signage. Has there been any further discussion as to when that is going to take place or if it will be happening? Or is it something council needs to approve first?
I think we'll have to defer specifically to the police department for their insight and recommendation, but that analysis will be forthcoming and we'll be working in the coming weeks to speak with them in regards to that issue.
Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Gama?
Is there staff time built in? Like, say, if somebody reserves the picnic area and they have a barbecue, bunch of people, is staff time built in to come out and check in or check out the group?
Not at this time currently. So there is no staff attendant assigned to any current reservation that exists within the park system.
Are we made aware of how many people are expected to populate the area? In other words, I'm trying to understand if somebody rents a place out and has a big old party and causes a lot of problems, how do we identify that other than somebody calling the police or something like that?
Interesting. As far as monitoring the number of guests in attendance, is that your question specifically?
My question is, do we monitor what's going on? Because it just seems to me that, somebody could go way beyond the scope of what they're paying for, and how do we manage that?
Sure. So at this point in time, what we're doing regularly is entering into a dialogue with any reserving party. And that's part of that staff assessment, is we want to engage them to really understand the scope of the intended reservation. We have had an issue where people will assume, well, if I am able to reserve this space, and then I can go ahead and use it as I see fit. For instance, I may want to hold a free public event. Well, they may engage vendors and or impede the public's right-of-way or access to those spaces. And in that moment in time, we would encourage them to submit a special use permit application.
What if they didn't? What if they just said, we're going to just go the bare minimum, and then we're just going to have this big old party, and then...
Sure, which unfortunately at this moment in time is something that could happen. And so if it's during off hours or outside of the scope of our normal business hours, the point of contact that they have within the city at this time would be the police department.
Right, if somebody became concerned. Like if I go to the dog park, I'm like, what is going on over there? There's a band, there's kegs, there's all kinds of stuff. So then it would be incumbent on me to phone it in. And if somebody doesn't phone it in, then you may or may not be aware of it at the end of the party.
Councilmember Gama, I'll just add, as Ms. Hanley explained before, the process includes the submission of a reservation and then subject to review by staff. So staff is looking for things that would be consistent with traditional park reservations. And Anna's example isn't just a hypothetical. That those situations have actually happened, where during the review process, it's been identified that this is not a typical park permit process. It's a much larger thing that would be more appropriate for a special use permit. So if someone is withholding information and doesn't share, it could happen, but I just wanted to reaffirm that the existing process does allow for staff review and identification of which is the proper route to take, so that we do have special uses accounted for properly.
Oh, and I was just going to expand on that by suggesting that by way of a presentation such as this and a conversation, we're encouraging the public to communicate with us so we can give them the correct path in order to submit or hold a sanctioned event such as that.
Thanks. And then I was looking for Miranda Park on here because I live very close to it, and the pickleballers. I could see a pickleball tournament wanting to occur at Miranda Park. I mean, it's not uncommon to see the parking lot completely full and people spill it into the neighborhood around the park. So just wondering, has any consideration been made for like renting out the pickleball courts for a tournament or something like that?
We did. We had to modify our internal guidelines as far as pickleball reservations, specifically to address an inundation of tournament requests. They were being submitted by people that claimed they were nonprofit groups, but it was groups that were identified to continue and promote pickleball tournaments for profit.
Yeah, bring it up because I did see one group and they're actually selling tennis shoes and rackets and all this stuff.
So that was modified to change that any pickleball tournament requires the co-sponsorship from the city, and it would come before the council for their your consideration. Excuse me.
Okay.
Just to be clear to the public, reservation of pickleball courts can be made, but I believe if it's more than two, it requires co-sponsorship and goes through the city council. So as Anna indicated, we found that other recreation districts and other agencies have modified their practices, and there was a little while, a year or so ago, that resulted in more requests of the city of Port Hueneme. So we modified our practice to ensure that anything that's going to burden the courts with a tournament would have to come before the city council for approval.
Just to be clear, is there a fee for that, for pickleballs?
Yes, there is an established rental fee for the pickleball courts.
Okay.
Any questions?
I do. So when did the app go live with the new Bubbling Springs area?
So we don't have an app per se, but the website did take a while for us to establish ourselves, quite frankly. There was a bit of a learning curve, and I believe some of those first few reservations, quite honestly, had a few errors associated with them. Forgive me, but I can't remember the exact date now, but it did take a few weeks after the park opened before we had the website up and running properly. Alongside, we were waiting for training associated with the use of the lights. And so now all staff is able to schedule remotely the use of the lights associated with any reservation.
Got it. So when I go to the app and I reserve a spot, if there's it's going to be blacked out for days that are already occupied, correct?
Sure. So when you select a time on the calendar, it'll immediately populate to the right of your date of choice what times remain available for reservation. And so there could be an instance where there's a portion of the day that's already blocked out for existing reservation, and only what's available or remaining for that reservable space will be revealed to you.
So how far in advance can you actually make reservations?
So we cap it at 21 days. So we don't want anyone to particularly monopolize those spaces.
So, the Hueneme Little League, they seem to have the first come first serve, but they also host tournaments from when they're off season. How is the city being notified that they're going to host tournaments that are not part of Hueneme Little League?
Sure. So under the priority use agreement, they're sanctioned to have, I believe it's up to 3 tournaments outside of their normal league play. And so they have an existing priority use agreement with the city in which we've identified the number of hours that they require for each season on weekdays, and then also a separate number of hours that they require on weekends, in addition to their tournament play. So the way it is supposed to work, and so this was a new year, first year of their priority use agreement, which was a change, but I have to say they've been incredibly great partners in being communicative and knowing that these are now public spaces, so they're sharing them with members of the public. They're doing a really good job of communicating to us what they need as far as tournament play, and all of those were approved by the Recreation and Community Services Division in advance of those established dates.
Okay. So since the picnic areas are, which are heavily used, so an example, I actually rented a spot on a Saturday. I'm pretty sure it was used by Wainimi Little League Friday night. So when we got there in the morning, we had to clean the area. We had to take out the trash because trashes were full. I got a blower, had to blow it all out. Why can't we use staff for that?
Our current operation does not allow, or we wouldn't have the ability in order to supply staff on site for that. We would need to take into consideration, speaking with our landscape division, as far as whether or not they have the means to supply that type of staff response. That's why we are calling out in this presentation that it currently is not a part of the fee schedule and is not part of our procedural rollout.
Yeah, and if I could just add to that, that that'd be the main thing when we set the fees for Bubbling Springs Park, which again, when we set them, we said we don't know how popular this is going to be. We don't know, we don't know if people are really going to jump on it. It looks like it's been pretty popular because we've had 24 in 5 months, which is basically one every weekend. But when we set them, the focus, I think at that point that we had talked about and with the council was on keeping costs low versus, Cadillac service at Cadillac prices. So it's something we could look at. We just have to have that conversation because, as a reminder, using all the taxpayers' dollars to pay for somebody to service one person who's renting the park isn't the way we would propose to do that. It would be the person using it and getting that service is paying for the cost. And just like everything else, the costs of staff at the city level, in California especially, is not cheap. It's, I think it would put the price out of reach for a lot of people. But it's an approach we can look at. It's just a different approach than we had set. So,
I mean, it is generating money, and we're not talking about 8 hours. I think we're talking maybe 1 to 2 hours of work that somebody would probably volunteer for. The other question I have is the restrooms that are near picnic area number 2. When you rent that space, that restroom is not opened, and it just seems like your guests have to walk all the way to the other restroom. What's the purpose of having a restroom if it's only used for Little League? Why can't we open it for our residents?
I understand, and I think we would have to take that into consideration as well operationally. Currently, it was intended just for the use in conjunction with the priority use agreement for the league. So I think we'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
I have a comment about the bathrooms.
Are you finished with the question?
No, I got a couple more.
We'll come
Oh,
back.
that's it.
We'll
Go
come
ahead.
back to you. Okay, go ahead.
So I just have a comment. We used to have the bathrooms open all the time to the public, and they kept being destroyed by homeless or people. So we decided to lock them because the amount of upkeep and maintenance and repair that our facilities had to do was
No,
ridiculous. So
yeah, I get
that's
that.
why.
But I'm saying if someone's reserving picnic area number 2, the restroom should go with it. And then when it's done, you lock it up at the end of the rental time. Just seems like that's something that the city should be doing since they're actually reserving that area.
And I understand you're identifying the secondary set of bathrooms. So just for clarity, the main public restroom building does remain open during park hours and is available for public use.
Great. Any other questions?
Just want to follow up a little bit on what Mayor Pro Tem had to say, and what I'm trying to articulate is that would it be worthwhile to build in staff time to come and, for lack of a better, police the area, because if the second renter comes on Saturday and the place is full of trash and stuff, you know, kind of, and if the trash was left negligently by a party, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not fair to the person who's renting the place to have to clean up in order to have their event. And so I do know that I've interacted with a park in Montecito for a number of years, and they would have a representative meet there and make sure everything's okay to go, and then come at the end of the day and check it out, and then, you know, move us on. So anyways, I think it might be a good idea.
Okay, so aren't we going to be talking, isn't that part of what this action is today, to see if we wanted to add additional funds for additional service?
Yeah, I was just going to say, too, the comments that have been made, when we made adjustments to the recreation section of the general fee schedule earlier this year, we presented information about fees that are charged in different districts, and there certainly is a wide range. We were not at the lowest, but we were medium to low, and there are districts that charge significantly more. And if it is the council's desire to provide direction that we provide a higher level of service with staff on site, either cleaning and or as an attendant during those activities, that could be something that we definitely adopt. It would come with an additional cost, and that would need to be considered and accordingly amended to the schedule.
Okay. When you say additional cost, you mean to the public reserving the space?
Yeah, the permit fee would need to be amended, increased accordingly, yes.
Okay. I did have a couple of questions. So having rented a space in Oxnard for family reunion in August, so they did have, you call it, a number, like we couldn't go over 150 people in a pavilion, right? So that was part of it. The other one was no alcohol. So are we a no alcohol facility?
Part of our standard park regulations includes signage that already stipulates that, so
Okay.
yes.
Okay, great.
But as far as a threshold number of guests, that's not something that I believe we've currently identified. So that's a great suggestion for us to implement.
Yeah, and a couple more questions. So in the area that's under the blue tent, there, I believe there was no electricity there. There's no electricity there?
No, there is not.
There is not, okay. But I have seen vendors that come, like the Taco Man is there, maybe, or barbecue pits. That's allowed?
So it's my understanding that outside of the Wainimi Beach Park, you are able to bring in your own cooking vessel. So it could be, I believe popular nowadays is the Blackstone for food preparation. And so it's not a live fire, if you will. It's not a barbecue pit, but it is an ability to cook food in public and in the park.
Okay, so no live fire?
Unless it's in a city-provided vessel is the word I can think of in this regard. But that particular portion of the municipal code, my understanding, is specific to Wainimi Beach Park, and may not necessarily apply to the remaining parks in our park system.
Okay. And I think my final question is there any verbiage about whether you can have Jolly Jumpers or not, if a permit is required?
Sure. So we have reviewed and examined a permit process associated with the use of Jolly Jumpers. We currently do not offer that as an option for park goers, and that's tied to, my understanding is, the use of a generator in the open park space, and there's limitations on that currently exist. So if we were to return to council, there may be an amendment or a need to provide clarity as far as allowing that.
Great, so that I'm clear, right now, there's no use of Jolly Jumpers in the park?
There are not.
Great.
What if they had a electric powered battery that can generate for a Jolly Jumper?
There's no enforcement.
Sure. So one of the things I would suggest is, if we're going to examine this as a city, is also that we would want to define specific areas in which those could be permitted. And we would want to probably identify a pre-vetted list of approved vendors that would work in partnership with us to respect the areas assigned for that type of use. And so that would be very typical. For instance, we have the open park parcel in the middle of Bubbling Springs. When you walk north of the dog park, northeast, all the way to the playground. So we wouldn't want necessarily sort of a free-for-all there as far as Jolly Jumpers or a number. So we would want to determine where those would be staged and set up in cooperation with one another. And so my approach would probably include a few steps for recommendation for your review.
And I'm just asking because I've seen them there. And I didn't know
We have too.
Yeah, and I didn't know if they were appropriate or not.
We have as
Anyway,
well.
So that's all I have. Anyone have any other questions before we
Yes.
move on?
Did I hear you correctly say that barbecue, portable barbecues are not allowed at Hueneme Beach Park?
I believe there's some language that limits the use of them. They're specifically at the beach, but for the purpose of this discussion, we focused on Bubbling Springs, so I guess I would say please don't quote me on that, but it is my understanding that there is specific language that applies to Hueneme Beach Park that does not necessarily apply to the other parks.
So you're saying that if I brought a barbecue to Bubbling Springs, that's okay?
I'm saying that we have received clarifying language that allows for the use of a cooking vessel that I would identify as a black stone. So it doesn't necessarily
not a
have.
Weber barbecue?
We asked specifically for that type of use and that particular type of cooking apparatus, and that was sanctioned. So I could only speak specifically to that particular item, but I can provide additional research and then have that information supplied to the council.
That would be great. Thank you.
Just to clarify on that, when you say the language that was sanctioned, it's from CJPIA? Is that what we're talking about?
It's from community development.
Oh, community development. Okay.
Their internal review in association to the special use permits that were provided. And we had a request from the Port Hueneme Little League to use several barbecues for a related event that they proposed.
Right.
And so there
in
was a
other
defined
words, I think
use.
our code is probably
Inadequate.
out of date, and needs to be updated as part of that. So it's something with how we're reviewing some of those community development items.
Are we in discussion yet or questions?
No,
still?
we are not.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Are any public comments?
No public comments for this item.
Okay, so we have before us, this is just a matter of fact, is this just a receive and file? This is a receive and file presentation regarding the city parks reservation process with a focus on newly implemented Bubbling Springs Park amenities. This is a receive and file. May I have a first and a second? Motion and a second.
Move to approve.
Second.
Move to approve, receive and file.
There is the opportunity, if there is any direction desired, to consider any policies or anything like that.
Yeah, we're
so.
discussion and comments.
Yeah, I think it's important to make everything make sense. And for example, at Hueneme Beach Park, I can tell you with 100% certainty that on Labor Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July, there are literally hundreds of barbecues, Weber barbecues on the beach. And so we need to make all this make sense because, you know, we've had this discussion before and I've heard our city manager say, if we're not going to enforce things, then let's not put it on the books. Jolly Jumpers, I regularly see them. I see them at Miranda Park. I've seen them up and down Bubbling Springs corridor. Not a lot, but you do see them from time to time. So maybe we could just take a big macro review of everything and make it make sense so that we can enforce when we need to enforce and manage our parks so that when a paying guest comes, they come and don't find a mess that somebody else left for them. May have been a paying guest or something, so.
Okay.
So I think you're going to we need to amend the motion or provide direction to staff to take these considerations that have been made under consideration, these recommendations under consideration that they've heard tonight.
Yeah, so does anybody have anything?
Well, I think they pretty much have already said that they will take those under consideration, so they've already collected.
So what I'm saying, we've taken a motion, now we're in discussion. Some other items might come out of discussion that we can also make it add to the amendment, right? Councilmember Perez? Mayor Pro Tem, did you have something?
Yeah, I just, I think we owe it to our residents and the people actually renting these spaces to be good stewards to those amenities, to have good customer service, not show up and have to clean before using these items, these areas. So to me, 2 to 3 hours of pre-work on a Saturday or a Sunday to me, is not excessive. It could be probably done pretty quick, and you'll probably get volunteers. Of course, they're paid volunteers from city staff. Again, it's something I think we should look at as a all hands on deck. How can we be good customer service reps to our residents? And then that restroom is we have a restroom, and if we are going to rent out picnic area too, it should be available and then locked up at the end of the event. To me, it's just makes sense. So those are like common sense things. That's all I have.
Okay.
I can add something to that as well. Another common sense thing is requiring people that are using the facilities to clean up after themselves.
Yeah, but they shouldn't have to clean up before getting
No, right, but if you use it and you make a mess, you should be cleaning up after yourselves as well.
Yeah, and that's why I made the suggestion of building staff time in to ensure that these things are happening into the fee structure. But, like Mayor's experience was in Oxnard, it sounds like you had to interact with somebody when you had your family reunion, and maybe they checked you in and checked you out.
Did you have something?
No, I'm just thinking we're hearing the same things over, and I've already heard staff say, yes, we hear you, and we'll take these under consideration.
So then amend my motion to include.
So if we don't hear each other out, we don't
Ma-
know if
Mayor.
they're going to say something different or if they're going to say the same thing.
Maybe ask them to say if
So-
they're going to say something
So,
different.
But
yeah.
I'm in charge here, so.
Thank you.
Councilman Perez.
So I'll amend my motion to include staff's recommendation and the request for, to consider all of council's suggestions to bring back information and follow-up regarding that.
Great.
Thank you.
Second.
Anything else? No? Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. And number 12, council member future agenda item requests. Staff, over to you.
Thank you. So we,
Thank you.
thank you, we've proposed a future agenda item request process. I think I'll start just by saying there's 1,000 ways to have the future agenda item discussion. Most cities, almost every city does it different from other cities. There's different ways to do it, and I think part of that is based on what the priority is of, what we're trying to address when we have that future agenda item discussion. And so one of the things that we had been noticing and hearing from council, hearing from staff over the last 6 months to a year is, I think trying to figure out how to make sure that we're being clear and transparent about what's getting put on the agenda and what will come back to the council. I think we've all had times where we talked about a future agenda item and then the item comes on the next agenda and maybe it's not exactly what I thought it was, or it's not exactly what another person thought it was, because when we were talking about it at the end of the meeting without anything in front of us, we thought we were saying the same thing, but we weren't really saying the same thing. So we noticed that, we were hearing that as feedback. So we sat down and we tried to put a process together that focuses on really addressing that, the clarity for the council to understand what they're voting on and for the staff to understand what the council expects, and the transparency to the public on how do we make it transparent for the public to know what's being talked about or what's going to be agendized. So with those in mind, we put together really, we spelled out the process. It's almost as dry as Tom's building code, but it's really pretty simple. The change would be basically the request gets submitted in writing to essentially myself and Georgiana, or myself and the city clerk, 1 week prior to the meeting, which then gives us the chance to include it with the agenda. That way the full council can see exactly what the item is, who requested it, and how it's explained. The public can see that and know what's going to be talked about, and if they, and to know what the future agenda item request is, and then also that staff will be able to clearly write their report and do their analysis based on what that written request is. So essentially what that means is that written item gets submitted. It will be included with the agenda. Each week when we have future agenda item discussion, there will be essentially a one-page staff report with those items attached, any items attached that are requested that meeting. And then the council will be able to discuss them. It addresses the concern, a lot of concerns, but it also addresses the concern that we won't be having conversations on items not on the agenda that the public isn't aware of, because they will be on the agenda and the public will be aware of them. So we put together, as I said, in the staff report lays it out maybe more clearly, but really that's the suggested modification to that process that we recommended. And council has the opportunity to accept that process, make no changes and keep the current process, or identify another process or ask staff to keep working to find a process. So the option is the council's, it's the council's process. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. I am all for, a new process. I do have some questions, though, about how we continue to comply with the Brown Act and avoid talking about the merits and the substance of the motion itself. I don't know if you plan to modify the agenda request form to be more specific on making sure that we don't get into a discussion on the merits and the substance. Let's see, I think I had one more question.
Isn't that the point, though?
Well, the Brown Act does specifically say you can't not talk about the merits and the substance of because you're getting into the discussion when you do. So maybe, Joan, you want to weigh in on that?
Well, I think that, having observed this council over the last year and a half, close to 2 years, that seems to be an issue when a request for a future agenda item comes up. Then we start and kind of go down this path of discussing the merits of it when actually it's not actually on the agenda yet. So I think that is what this policy is trying to address. That and the making sure that the future agenda item request is specific enough so that staff can deal with it.
Right, but that's my concern, is if you get into too much specificity, then you'd begin to discuss the merits and the substance and the pros and cons of the item itself. So James, did you actually pull this idea from a best practices, or did you find this process being used in other cities?
Yeah, there's several cities that use this process.
All right.
Yeah.
So then my other question is, will there be an expectation from council to request a reminder 5 days before these requests are due? Are we going to get into are we going to require Georgiana to remind us, or are we just going to, is the expectation for us just to know 5 days before if we want to submit an agenda request that we need to get it in? 'Cause
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to burden staff with
Yeah.
having to remind
And
everybody.
so there isn't, there isn't a mandate that, it's not everybody everybody has to turn one in
right,
this week. So essentially, when, if you hear an idea for a future agenda item, or you wake up and you notice an issue in the city and you want it to be a future agenda item, essentially you'd fill out the form, submit it to us, and then we'd agendize it for the next meeting. The next meeting that we'd have the time to put the agenda out, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, if I could answer actually the first question, though. The question was about, I jotted it down,
So it's my understanding that the purpose of this is to not be in a potential to discuss something that's not on the agenda. So by filling out the form, let's say all 5 of us had one request and it's a different request. Then we would get to future agenda items and you would lay out the 5 requests. And then we would be able to discuss each request independently, and that's the point.
For the
right?
purposes of deciding whether to put it on a future agenda, right?
Right,
So-
we'd be able to discuss it without
so-
violating the Brown Act.
Right, and so the idea, though, is, I think the distinction is it's not the substantive discussion, because if that's the case, then we just have a second agenda inside the first, a mini agenda at the end of the meeting.
Right, but
And so,
you at
but
least-
it's enough
these-
detail to be able to, for everybody to say, yes, I want to include that on a future item so we can discuss it, or no, we don't even need to spend the staff time on that because it's not something we're interested in doing.
But there's gonna be a discussion. If there's a request and staff says there's this cost is associated with this request, there's gonna be a
There's gonna be a discussion of whether or not
and
to
it's-
agendize it.
Right, and that's okay. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be able to discuss a future agenda item without being in.
Yeah, I
Right.
think the distinction is, it's like if we say, the answer, I think, is it's gonna require some discipline as well, because if we say, okay, we have a request and it costs $100,000, and then we start arguing about, well, I think we can do it for 90,000 or 80,000, or we could do it differently. Well, that now we're discussing the substance, but all we should be discussing is, yeah, let's talk about that idea at the next, or not the next meeting, but at a future meeting.
Yeah, I think number
Or-
2.
or not.
I think number 2 is clear, right? It says the city manager's staff report will not fully analyze the item, but will simply provide an estimate of resources and staff time for each request. This ensures that significant staff time is not utilized until the city council considers the approved item.
Yep.
So it's clear, we're really gonna see what the council member submitted, and then your minimal.
Costs, staff estimates, right, and then it's just, do you want to spend the time and energy on this?
Right.
I think, to be clear also, is reading the actual staff report.
Right.
To understand exactly what it is we're going to be voting on.
Well, and that staff report won't be prepared until it gets put on an agenda.
Exactly.
So then it's like, step 1 is, do we want to do that? Yes, okay, now there's gonna be a staff report at a future meeting for us to discuss.
So I submit a future agenda item.
Mhm.
At what point is the council given the form
It's
of the substance?
included in the packet that would go out to the council and the public.
So they wouldn't get it early?
No, so like, let's say you submit it Monday, and it should have said 7 days. That's an old habit of me. I had 15 years of Tuesday night council meetings, so I still get into Tuesday mode sometimes. But so 7 days prior. So essentially, the Monday prior, you submit the form. We put them together and in the packet, and then the packet goes out. And then, yeah, and so then the council, the public, everybody sees it when the agenda goes out.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I was curious why you picked 8 days. I was like, that's a little
should have been
excessive.
7. Yeah,
All right.
yeah. We're not coming in on Sunday to do that.
And that is it. That's all I got.
Any more?
Real quick question.
Okay.
So a resident could do a public comment
A public comment?
on future agenda item. If all of us put
I
in
mean,
a.
they could do it as a general public comment, right? So let's say the packet goes out and I say I want to add new, a rule about barbecues at the beach. then when we have that meeting and a member of the public puts public comment in, and they say they want to speak about barbecues at the beach, they can do it under general public comment.
We
And then
had
at that
one
time,
today.
we would just note whether it's going to be scheduled or not.
There was a public comment today that says, I support item number 12 on your agenda.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, it would be an agenda item, so like any other agenda
Right.
item.
Yeah, but so, you know, good and bad, obviously that means there might be more public comment, more time spent
Mhm.
on that, but
Mhm.
the flip, the good is it's a transparency measure. The public has an opportunity to provide some comment before the council decides whether to schedule it or not.
Yeah.
Mayor, I have a comment.
Yes.
I think the most important part of this is it's going to tell us staff time and how much this agenda or whatever it is we're asking for is actually going to cost, which is rarely something that we get ahead of time.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments?
We did have a public comment, and I'll just say it was from Luis Mendez, but I don't see him here, so.
I think he left.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it was just the written public comment that was
Okay,
received.
wonderful, thank you. So we have before us a recommendation to approve the proposed process for council member future agenda item request and direct staff to incorporate this process into the city council policies and procedures manual during the next scheduled update. May I have a motion and a second?
So
Move to
moved.
approve?
Second.
Got it?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No
Hearing-
discussion.
Yeah. So I think we kind of were talking over each other.
Okay.
Yeah, I was asking if you had the motion and the second.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. Now, discussion. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that while I was at the League of California Cities, I had the opportunity to talk to numerous colleagues from other cities and ask them how they did their agenda requests, and all of them did them differently than us. Very, very differently. And I don't know that there's any one best way. I tried to find best practices and I couldn't really find it. I think this is a good move for us, and I know it's going to keep our city attorney on their toes to make sure that we don't venture into too much of the discussion and let's talk about the merits. But yeah, thank you for putting this on the agenda, James. I appreciate it.
Yes, anything else?
And if it doesn't work out, we can always amend and change it later.
Yeah, that was one reason we suggested trying it right now, is because if then in January, for example, we do our annual review of the policy and procedures, if it doesn't work, we know not to put it in there, or we can tweak it, you know, at that time. So it's a good test period.
I would venture to say that I think it's an improvement, and I think it's going to work out just fine.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
So when do you think that this will be implemented?
If approved tonight, we would start it now, yeah. So I think
Well,
we.
so if I have.
Council's
That's what I'm
call.
saying, since-
Council's
since
call.
Since we may have future agenda items at the end of this meeting, I say.
You have to, 5 days ahead.
We're already.
Oh,
We're
you
already
missed the
prepared.
deadline.
That is not fair.
I will take that from you and include it in the packet.
Okay, any other comments or discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, can we have a vote, please?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. We'll move over to the city manager comments and reports.
Thank you. Excuse me. So we have just a few things today. I actually thought it was going to be much later than 9:30 by this point when we put the agenda together. So, okay. Yeah.
9:38, my clock was.
So just a few things we wanted to highlight. And I'm in my mind, Anna was going to be here to get some kudos, and she probably took off. But we wanted to highlight the work of the Recreation Department with the 4th annual Touch a Truck event, which was another, I think, big success this year. We held it on October 11th. It was the 4th annual. It seems like it keeps getting bigger and more popular, and then also Rec has been fine-tuning the things that we heard weren't perfect the first year or two. It seems like now those things are getting better. So the event drew over 3,000 attendees and over 1,000 kids, and I think we know that because we passed out some materials, and all of them were taken, and then some. So we want to thank our rec department, but also there's a lot of partners involved with this, including our departments who bring out items, and you can see there, like the trash truck and our motorcycle unit, but also our county fire partners. You can see the postal truck and numerous other trucks. I think they even had a helicopter flyover this year. So it's definitely a team effort to make it happen, and we wanted to thank everybody for that. Coming up this week, we have another popular one. Last year, the park was full, so I'd actually encourage everybody to check this one out. The 4th annual Spooktacular from 5 to 8 p.m. on Wednesday. It is really coming up quick. And as part of the Spooktacular, which has music, photo booth, treats, pumpkin patch, maze, face painting, carnival games, and then the last item there is the community pumpkin carving contest. So you can see the flyer to the right. And so I think I messed this up when I said it, so I want to correct it this time. I think I had said, like, come and carve your pumpkin, but I was corrected that it's bring your carved pumpkin. And so, so if you show up with a plain pumpkin, you're not gonna get very far in the contest.
You're not gonna win.
Yeah. So bring your best carved pumpkin, and there's gonna be votes for from 5 to 7 p.m. and then winners announced at 7:30. But that the Spooktacular for a small, medium-sized city. When I went last year, I was very surprised at how many people there were, and it was generally everybody was very happy and had a good time. So definitely one worth checking out. And then with it somehow being Halloween, it is also not too far off from somehow being Veterans Day. So we sent out the invites this morning, including to our council members to represent us at this event for the Veterans Day ceremony, which would be held this year on Tuesday, November 11th, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. at Port Hueneme City Hall. We also, I know we have our Veterans Ad Hoc Committee who's going to be we expect to be reporting back to the council soon on their initial report. And so we also invited them to come attend and get involved with our Veterans Day ceremony this year. So, and then we're hearing good feedback from other representatives that we've invited that I think will have a good turnout this year. And so last on the agenda forecast, one thing I wanted to highlight is that we had agreed to set a special meeting to review proposals for city attorney on October 28th, which is very quick. And I think the idea, so the period for those applications ends on Thursday night. We are going to try to turn around and get everybody copies of all those proposals on Thursday night. And then basically it gives us Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to review, and then and Tuesday, and then we'll have a special meeting for the council in closed session to discuss those applicants and discuss really the goal will be to identify which ones we'd want to move forward with on interviews, which we'd then set a couple weeks further out. So I think we're planning to do that. It is a tight turnaround, and I think we talked about that when we were setting the dates. But I think we will stick to it, and then if we need more time, we need more time. But I think it'll be good to have that first conversation on the 28th.
What time?
So I'm trying to remember now if we said 5 o'clock. Okay, I think we. Yeah, I think we said 5 o'clock, but we'll confirm that. It was going to be right after working hours. So, and then November 3rd is our next regular meeting, and right now we have our quarterly employee recognition presentation scheduled. A presentation by President Dr. Roberto Gonzalez from Oxnard College on their 50th anniversary. We are planning to bring the public hearing for the short-term rental ordinance, which we mentioned to the speaker earlier today. And then we have several business items planned, the Hueneme Hero Award. We had talked about changing the code to specify the number of heroes each year, so that's coming back. we had a discussion on the feasibility of a bike lane on southbound Ventura Road and what that would look like or could look like. We are bringing back the Community Benefit Fund discussion to update the council on the conversation with the port and get direction from council. And then we are reaching out to the ad hoc committee. We had reached out to them and they said they would be able to report back in November. We're holding a time for them on the 3rd. I'm not sure if they'll be ready by then or not, but if they do, we'll move forward with that update as well. So we expect a good meeting on the 3rd. So, and with that's all I have.
Great. And the time was 5 o'clock.
Is it 5 o'clock? That's what I thought. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to council member reports and comments. Councilwoman.
Yes, so I sat in on the Defense Communities Committee meeting, and part of the discussion was the current shutdown and the study of the understanding the community issues, pressing need for healthcare and educational resources for military families given hospital closures. Some shutdown concerns were community impact, legalities and accountability, funding concerns for military and civilian personnel, and certain needs for community support. And one specific need that has come up with our local community, the Port Hueneme Lions Club has partnered with the Navy base in helping families. And one of the things that we are helping with is Operation Holiday Wrap, which is getting donations for Christmas wrapping paper, anything, gift bags, ribbons, everything between the dates of October 1st and November 11th. So that is a small thing that we are trying to do to help families in need in this community.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Kama?
Yeah, I'm really excited about Spooktacular. I'm going to bring a Marshmallow, and he is a white golden retriever. He looks like a ghost, so he's gonna be out there having fun. So look forward to that. I noticed that the Angela Dulau McPherson Museum and Philippine Cultural Center is coming to Hueneme, and I don't know if you have any information on that, but I would love to hear. It's a sizable area, and it looks to be significant. And it's the Beachport Shopping Center, the old 99-cent store. So I would love for us to be able to welcome them and invite them in and hear what they're all about and see what we could do to help them. I attended the Ventura County Board of Supervisors meeting last week to thank them and their Public Works Department for the refurbishing of Hueneme Road, and I think Pro Tem drives to Point Mugu frequently, and I think he would be the first one to tell us how wonderful it is. It's amazing. It really is, considering how bad it was. But most importantly, the bike lane is really amazing, and every 3 months, there's a group from Lancaster that comes to Hueneme Beach called the Laques from Lancaster, and they're a Filipino organization, and they like to ride bikes, and they come to Hueneme Beach to ride their bikes to Malibu and back. And so I always interact with them because they get there pretty early, and when they came in, they're like all happy and like, "Hey, Gama, the road," and they're all excited to be able to ride that new bike lane. And it really is that, it's a huge improvement for Hueneme Road, and maybe we could take some lessons from that when we start to look at, how because I'll tell you, if you're gonna ride a bike on Ventura Road, you should be on the sidewalk. I mean, if you're the safety aspect. But what the county did was they created like a buffer lane and added space from what it looks like to me, particularly to make that bike lane safer.
Yeah, they added the little divots.
Rumble strips, yeah.
Strips.
Yeah, so it's really nice. So anyways, I think we should take a look at that. Cal Cities, I learned, I sat in on a session called Plastic Litigation, and I learned a lot about plastics that I didn't know. One of the biggest things that I learned is styrofoam is plastic. And plastic does break down, and it breaks down to a point where it's the width of a DNA strand, so you can't see it. And that's how it gets into our brains, into our systems. Plastic is wonderful, but it just doesn't break down like other organic material does. So, we really need to think about the future, and maybe we could, as a city, I don't know how to do this, but maybe we could be the city that starts the movement to say to groups like Amazon, forget the styrofoam, just use cardboard, use paper, because there is no recycling of plastic. And there's a big myth out there that, it's recyclable. Even the water bottles, yes, those are recyclable, but everything else pretty much isn't. So it was really mind-opening to listen, and it's like, ooh, plastic's bad. Councilmember Hernandez and I attended the Coastal Cities meeting, and it fits into the Beacon discussion tonight, because when you meet council persons from other coastal cities, we all have issues with sand. It's just different. And then you could also say, thankfully I'm not Imperial Beach. Well, who's Imperial Beach? That's the beach that's right next to the border that's having all that sanitation issues with the country of Mexico. So, while we could bellyache about our problems, there's always somebody that has a little more severe problems. But it's really interesting to hear everybody talking and trying to learn from each other. That's it.
That's it. Go right ahead.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm kind of chuckling because during that Channel Cities group discussion, and the Imperial Beach people were complaining about the sewage and the trash that comes from the Tijuana River, and they kept saying Tijuana. Like, it's not Tijuana, like, do you want to dance? It's Tijuana. I kept wanting to tell him, Jess, you'd probably go crazy like I did. But anyway, it was a great conference. I thought the vendors were a little bit more assertive this year than they were last year, and but once I did engage with them, I got some really good information, and I apologize, James, if I'm inundating with you with introductions to vendors. I try not to do that too much, but so I'm just kind of giving them to you in a dribble, not all at once. I very much enjoyed the conference. It's always a good place to meet new people, make new friends, and learn about what other cities are doing, such as agenda requests. I participated in a webinar today through the CalCities organization entitled "We Are United Against Hate Resolutions," and I wanted to get a copy of what they are doing up in the Bay Area to recognize October 19th through the 25th as United Against Hate Week. And I think the purpose of me getting that resolution would be to provide it to you, James, for possible incorporation into our immigration discussion, and when we finally have an opportunity to discuss about what things we can do to help our immigrant communities here in Port Hueneme, there might be something valuable in that resolution that we can borrow. The VCOG dinner last Thursday, Mayor and I were there, and that was a really good event, and got to enjoy some entertainment from Moore Park and network with other cities. It's always nice to meet and hang out with some of the other city council members. Attended my CPA meeting here in town. They had an extra meeting, so I attended through the Government Center. Tomorrow I'll be here for the LCMC SCAG meeting at 8:30, and I want to say congratulations to the Friends of the Library for a successful event in our newly renovated library. I wasn't able to attend, but I sent a gift basket, but I heard it was wonderful, so I want to just offer my congratulations, and that's it.
Over to you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, so I do want to talk specifically to the government shutdown, as it's starting to affect our residents for our civilian federal workforce. There's two classes. There's the furloughed not working, and there's furloughed work who actually go to work that are unpaid. They're usually labeled emergency essential personnel, so they do go to work, they're just not paid. Depending on who you bank with, like USAA, Navy Federal, Premier America, these banks do actually, if you have a direct deposit history with your current bank, they will actually, they will pay you, and then it is very little interest on this money. It's almost non-existent. So it's actually a good deal for some of the workforce who need a paycheck. So it's something to pay attention to with who you bank. I did attend Civics Night at the Knights of Columbus 750. And the guest speaker was our very own Port Commissioner, Jesse Ramirez. They honored his 30-plus years of public service and his 30 years of dock service. So congratulations to him, the founder of the Banana Festival. So congratulations, Mr. Ramirez, President Ramirez. I also did attend the MOU signing with our mayor and James, our city manager, for Sister Ports Memorandum of Understanding with the Port of Hueneme and the Port of Piata, Peru. Most of our blueberries come out of that port. So that was a really good event for, for our city. I did attend the Cannabis Community Forum and the Teen Prevention, and that was actually really good. I had another meeting, but I did attend this for about an hour, and it was a good turnout. And hats off to the organizers, Boys and Girls Club, Gabe Turan, who was the moderator. So that was a good event. And I had the honor of presenting the certificate of recognition on behalf of the city of Port Hueneme to the Filipino American Heritage Month, hosted yesterday at the Museum of Ventura County. That was an awesome event, and I posted on my social media some of the cultural, the dances. It was really well organized, and thank you for the invite. And that's all I have.
Great. So, okay, go ahead.
I attended the Hueneme High School football game, and they were losing very badly, 28-6, and it was really hard to watch. And they had an amazing comeback. They didn't win the game, but they lost 35-32, and it was so exciting. So, and the band, I'm really close with Jasmine Keys, and if we remember, 3 years ago, she only had 9 people in her band, and now she's got over 70. So 70. So watching the band grow, it's phenomenal. So congratulations to Hueneme High School.
Thank you. So some of the council members have already communicated some of the things that I've done. So I did the MOU signing ceremony with the Port VCOG annual dinner. It was my first dinner, so it was really nice. I attended the Reach Check presentation, and I actually went on vacation to St. Lucia, so I went out of the country. So that was the 7th through the 13th, so I'm just kind of getting my legs back on land. But I will be attending the CTA, that's the California Transit Association Conference, and that's in Long Beach. That's November 4th through the 7th. That's with GCTD. They're funding the trip, so nothing required of the city. And then I wanted to just share really quick, from the Caltrans. I don't know if anyone receives information from Caltrans about road closures, but Ventura County, they will have an overnight full closure of the US 101 in Ventura County between 126 and Telephone Road. That will be northbound February the 24th through Saturday, October 25th. There will be detour signs to get you around that area. And then on, after that's done, then on the southbound lane, Saturday the 25th through Sunday the 26th, the 101 will be fully closed from 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. Between Oak Street and Seward Avenue. So let me just go back to the northbound. The time is, it'll be fully closed from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. between Seward and Oak Street. So that's coming in a couple of days. So just wanted to share that. That's all that I have. And so we'll move on to, okay, so for requests for future agenda items, item number 12 was approved. So the new process has been approved. Therefore, no requests for future agenda items will be taken tonight. Staff will distribute the form to each council member electronically for submitting any requested future agenda items. So no one has any requests for future agenda items. So that is the last.
this one.
That is the last item. Does anybody have anything before we close? We're going to adjourn. Okay, so the next regular meeting is scheduled for Monday, November 3rd at 6:30 p.m. We'll now adjourn. The time is 10 o'clock.